This week's episode of the Inside Running Podcast is proudly sponsored by ASICS. Energise your runs with their Super Blast shoe, stacked with the bounciest, lightest FF Blast Turbo foam technology for a supercharged ride. Visit asics.com.au or your specialty running retail store to grab your pair today. Enjoy the episode. Welcome to episode number 286 of the Inside Running Podcast. Thank you for joining us for another week. Big show coming at you. A lot's happened in the running world over the last 7 days. So thank you for downloading the show, streaming, download, whatever people do these days, and listening to us talk about it for the next 60, probably 90 minutes, I reckon. There's a lot to get through tonight. Maybe joined by Andy Buchanan at some stage as well throughout the evening. London Marathon happened, Jells Park, New South Wales cross country, good listener question in, Moose on the Loose, hopefully just won this week, and an Ed Goddard interview at the very end. Welcome to my co-host, Julian Spence. Saw you on Saturday. How you going in over the internet now, Moose, on a Monday night?
Well, pretty good. It's been a long weekend, hasn't it?
Didn't you work today?
It's been for me.
School kids back today?
No, Mondays are off. For me, Monday's my regular day off, so it means that I have 4 days off in a row, sort of off. I mean, you small business owner never have a day off.
That's what I thought it was like.
You all know that. Yeah, that's right. But you don't have to drive to Geelong. That's probably the best thing.
Okay. How long is it from Anglesea?
Oh, like 35 to 40.
Okay. We were talking about that on the weekend, actually, about like the long runs never seem to be in Geelong, though. Everyone comes to you out of Geelong.
Geelong's concrete
and
pretty uninspiring. So if you're in Geelong, you've kind of got the option of running around the river, which is just all concrete and flat, or you can run to the suburbs, but it's all concrete, or you go to Yuyangs, which is about like 20 minutes away from Geelong. That's bloody good out there, but it's not quite as nice as the trails down, like 30 minutes down the coast. And then we have some people live in Torquay and stuff, so it's easier if you join the coastal crew.
I just thought because the big dog was down there, that's why everyone went down. You weren't getting in your car to go the other way.
No, even when I lived in Geelong, we were driving down. We'd probably do like one run at the Uis for every 3 runs on the surf coast.
Okay, my other co-host is in good shape, 2 weeks out from his 10K, Bradley Croker up in Canberra. How you going?
Good, thanks, Brady. Enjoying my long weekend as well.
Do you not go to work either today?
It's a pupil free day today for our school.
I don't like how schools do that, Croaks. Like parents have been at home for 2 weeks, school holidays, and the first day back they just pull a pupil free day. Don't parents have it hard enough when their kids are on school holidays?
Surely it makes sense, though. It makes sense to do that. Like, what's the point coming back for a day?
What was good was Lily's school went back today, so and Collis is in daycare. So because during the school holidays, I've been looking after Lily while Viv's at work.
Yeah, one day.
So you got the day at home with Viv.
Well, Viv was at work today, so I had the day home to myself.
Jeez.
What'd you do all day by yourself?
Pro runner life. What did I do? Cook dinner. Did a little bit of podcast stuff.
Oh yeah. What kind of? Did you get that interview teed up?
Well, that's all teed up. I've just got to work out when we'll do it because he's away at the moment. No, it started to look into some more Patreon shout-outs. So takes a bit of time, the old Patreon stalking.
Research, I used to call it, Croaks.
Yeah.
Let's go through your week, Bradley. Let's hear all about it. Big 5K time trial. Bit of a rust buster on the Friday, I think.
Yeah, so Monday just an hour, 4:20s, and then went out for half an hour in the afternoon on a sort of dirt path outside of Mulligan's Flat. But the GPS, I think it was a bit off. I definitely an average 4:12s. I think it was more like closer to 4:20s. It just started off, it wasn't right at the start. Tuesday morning, just jumped on the treadmill for 35 minutes at 5-minute Ks, which, I reckon on the treadmill, like I never run 5-minute Ks outside, but I reckon 5-minute Ks on the treadmill feels probably more like maybe like 4:45s outside. Like it's easy, but it's, I reckon it feels faster than 5-minute Ks would outside. That afternoon, there wasn't a group session because most people had raced that Sunday. So I went back out to Thoroughbred Park because there wasn't a group session. I could train a little bit earlier. So the session I did was 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then 5 minutes, all off 75-second jog. So the jogs were between 4 and 4:05 pace. I quite liked this session, I guess because I'd had a pretty solid 3 weeks. Like all my sessions had been going really well. I just wanted one that was a little bit, I guess, cruisier, knowing that I was going to do a pretty solid 5K on the Friday. So what I like about this one is it generally starts pretty steady and you just work through the gears. So I went 3:16 for the 5-minute rep, and then 3:08 for the 4-minute, 3:05 for the 3, 2:57 for the 2, 2:52 for the 1, and then back to 3:13s for the 5 minutes. So that was 3:19 average for just under 8K. There
you did one set of that. One set.
Just one set, yeah. So it works out at like 26 minutes, just over 26 minutes. If you do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 5, and all off 75-second jog.
Oh, then you go back to 5.
Yeah.
So what was your last 5?
3:13.
3:13.
First one,
So
3:16.
What paces are we like talking about here? So what efforts? Like threshold?
So I generally work on, say, the 5-minute at around like threshold or like 60-minute sort of pace. The 4-minute more at sort of 45-minute pace, the 3-minute at sort of 30 minutes or 10K, and then more like 5K for the 2-minute and, sort of, I guess, 3K for the 1-minute. That's rough. Like that's roughly what I prescribe, effort-wise or pace-wise.
You ever done it off 60 seconds croaks and it's spot on 25 minutes?
Yeah, well, so this is actually the first time I've done the 5 at the end. Normally I just do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And when I first did it, I used to do, I think I used to have like 90 seconds between the 5 and the 4 and the 4 and the 3. And then I had 1 minute between the 3 and the 2 and the 2 and the 1. So I've sort of changed it a little bit. But yeah, I enjoy the session.
It's a fun
because
workout,
the first,
isn't it?
Yeah, like because the first half of it, like the 5 and the 4, it almost feels just like a bit of a threshold. And so if your motivation's not real high, I find, and like not that my motivation was high for this session, but if your motivation's not high, it's a session where you can just ease into it because it's going to be pretty cruisy to start with.
Yeah, and then I reckon if you do it correctly, you should almost feel like your brakes are back on in that last 5 minutes. Like if you've got to bust your chops to then hit that 3:13 like you did, you're probably going a bit too hard.
Yeah, and the other thing I like about it is often when you run faster, sometimes the last 5 minutes often feels easier than the first 5 minutes because when you go from like, low to mid 250 pace back to 3:13s, it feels, if anything, probably the first couple of minutes feels the worst because you still got a little bit of junk in your legs from running fast for a minute. But then also, like, do you jog pretty quick on this session?
Yeah, probably not as quick as you do. I've done it with Archie a couple of times, and he's sorted me out.
Because when you're running, I suppose 4-minute Ks, like it does start to catch up with you a little bit because it's not a lot of recovery when you're still rolling 4 minutes in between. But I felt pretty good on that session, given it's gravel and stuff. Then my midweek long run went a little bit longer than the week before, so I did 23K, 4:11s, which was like an hour 36. Thursday is basically my, I guess, rest day. I just went out for 35 minutes at 4:18s and did some strides. And then Friday morning went out to do a hard 5K. And then the plan was, if I felt like if I hadn't completely buried myself, I'd do a bit of a tempo afterwards. So I definitely got myself up for this session more than all of my others, but I still didn't have the same sort of adrenaline pumping that I would for a race. And I think I was more nervous because I knew I wanted to run somewhere like around 15 minutes, like anywhere between sort of 15 and probably like 15, 20. But I was hoping that I wouldn't look down at my watch within that first kilometre. I feel like I'm running like 3-minute Ks and it's like 3:08s where you're like, oh, fuck, like I'm working really hard for 3:08s here. But it went pretty well. Like I felt really good for the first couple of K where I was rolling, like 3:02, 3:01. And then I got to about 2.5 K and I was thinking to myself, this is the stuff that I've really neglected. Like I've done 3-minute reps at about this pace, and I've done thresholds like hell of a lot slower, and I've done long runs at a decent clip. So I feel like I'm strong, but that sort of speed endurance where, it starts to take its toll after sort of that 6-7 minutes. I'm like, I really haven't done this stuff, and I'm not sure how it's going to go over the last sort of 7-8 minutes of this effort. So I just dialed it back a little bit because I didn't want to get to the point where the last K I was completely just spent and just hanging on, and like I wanted to come away from it with a little bit of confidence. So I just backed off a little bit, ran like 3:04 for the third K, then 3:03, and then just after 4K I did a U-turn, which that was probably the hardest part. Was I've got a K to go. I pretty much and there was no cone or anything I was running around. It was just almost just stop, turn around and go back. And if you have a look at my pace chart, it just drops right off just after 4K. And so getting back up to speed was a bit tough, but I closed in 2:57, which I was happy with how that went. So that was like 15:10. So in terms of effort, I reckon it was probably like, I'm hoping it's about 10K pace, but given it was training and it's the back end of 3 weeks of 150K, it's probably more like closer to 5K effort, but I'm hoping it's closer to 10K pace when I do race. But anyway, I took like 3 minutes recovery, or 3.5, something like that. I didn't time it. And then I just tempoed back to where we started. And so I averaged 3:15s for 10 minutes, which the first probably 5 minutes felt the worst because I was just running the shit out of my legs. So I went like 3:18, 3:17 and 3:10 for the last K, and the 3:10 probably felt better than the first couple of Ks did, because by that stage I felt like I'd sort of recovered. But I think those sort of 2 to 2.5 K reps at 10K pace is something that I've sort of been neglecting. So I think I'll add a little bit more of that into my program and just, combine it with a little, like not do a full session of that sort of stuff, but maybe, 2 to 3 times 2.5 K reps, and also throw in some tempo stuff as well. So I was happy with how the morning went. I definitely couldn't have kept going for another 5K at that pace on Friday. So
what about another 2? You reckon you get another 2K out?
I think
pretty cooked at the end.
I think because I kicked down, like the last K was pretty the last 400 or so, I was definitely like pushing. Whereas if I had to go another 2K, I wouldn't have kicked so early. I would have probably just run another like 3:02, 3:03, which would have then sort of got me a little bit further.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
You run off the markers there? There are markers on that trail?
No,
questioning
just
the distance moves.
Just my watch.
Just wondering how you know that when you do a U-turn.
Blew up Strava, 380 likes, 18 comments.
Well, I just knew that I wanted to get back to. So I knew so I basically turned around. I ran back. That would have been the 3K mark, and I knew I was going to do a 10-minute tempo, like a 3K tempo from there. So, but it was all just off the watch. I just ran until it hit 5K. So,
well, yeah, there's no you don't need to run on a course. You're just doing it on a Friday morning or whatever.
That's right. It's not even about the time. It's more about the effort. Because remember last year at Sydney 10, I got to 8K and I'm like, I have not done any sort of race type effort, and so I'm completely cooked now. Whereas I definitely got that feeling in that last K, which was the whole purpose of it. So hopefully this time around when I go to Sydney 10, as long as I don't cook myself early, hopefully I can close a bit better than I did last year.
Do you think that's a mindset thing?
What's that?
Like, you think that the reason last year that you couldn't finish as strong as you wanted because you hadn't exposed yourself to that in training?
Yeah, in a way, you know how a race brings you up, and then you're basically race hardened.
Yeah, I think I know what you're saying for sure, but I'm just wondering if you're referring to the mental side of it, or whether you think that it helps you physically.
Well, probably physically more than mentally, because doing this doesn't help me that much mentally, because I've run 15:10 and I'm hoping to run maybe 30:30 for 10K, which is pretty much doing this again. And there's no way I could have done that again in training, but I'm hoping that a race, in the race environment, I am able to do it. Plus having a harder effort a couple of weeks out will hopefully just raise the fitness a little bit. Whereas, most of my training is very much just tempo threshold type stuff.
Yeah. So that was my next question. It's a trap, I reckon, going back to what's got you so good right now, because you don't really need to get better at 5Ks or 10Ks. You need more and more weeks and months of what you're doing right now, because you want to nail a marathon.
100%. And I'm glad you raised it, Moose, because I was thinking to myself, 3-minute Ks now, does not feel that comfortable. It doesn't really matter how fit I get. It's always going to be hard because I'm just older. And so I'm almost better off doubling down now on the strength stuff.
Yeah.
And sprinkling in a couple of, and that's what I said to you about this. It went through my head at 2.5K. I'm like, you know what? This would be a really good session if I stopped right now. And so I've run, basically 2.5K at 3-minute Ks. Give myself 2 minutes recovery. Do another one of these, and then do some tempo to finish off the session, and just to give it a bit of extra volume. For me, that seems pretty low risk, but keeps enough speed there. And is a bit more 5 and 10K specific, as opposed to 1K reps running 3-minute Ks. You never quite get into that neuromuscular fatigue that you get when you've been running 3-minute Ks for closer to 10 minutes. So yeah, so I want to sprinkle some of this in, but I think I'm better off doubling down on the volume and the strength stuff.
Yeah, it is a big difference going from 3 minutes to 5 minutes in one of those repeats. It just gets exponentially harder, I find anyway. That's why I like 3-minute reps rather than much longer, because maybe it would be good for you if you're training for a lot of these types of races. And I mean, of course, it would be good for you if this is what you're training for. And a younger athlete, you brought up being older and then not doubling down on the strength, but I think a younger athlete does better with this type of training than an older athlete.
Yeah, I agree. So anyway, and because I haven't run I've run 3-minute Ks, but only for a K. The last time I ran multiple sort of low 3-minute Ks was probably a couple of weeks before Gold Coast. I did a solid 5K around Yerriby Pond, and so that was June last year. So that's the reason why I wanted to do this, just to almost get my body ready for that 10K. So anyway, it was a good fun morning. Weather was awesome. And also wore the I have the Alpha Flies, where I haven't worn the Alpha Flies since Gold Coast Marathon last year. I find I get way more pop out of them than I do in the Next Percent, Next Percent 2, which I use for most of my sessions on the bike paths. And then that afternoon got out for another 7.5K at 4:14s at Mulligan's. Saturday morning did 16K 4:11s. Listened to the Ed Goddard interview, which will be at the end of this episode, and saw Kerry Saxby Jr. on the bike. Do you know who Kerry Saxby is?
No, I don't.
No.
Oh, she was probably the person that put Australian race walking on the map. She's 3-time Olympian. I think she's won 2 Commonwealth Games gold medals and maybe a silver. She's won a silver and a bronze at World Championships. So she was like the sort of pin-up girl in the 90s, I think, of like race walking. So she was one of the best in the world. Finished 7th maybe at the Sydney Olympics.
You have a poster of her on your bedroom
sounds
wall?
like it, doesn't it?
No, I don't. I just remember.
Records.
I just remember that she was she was a big name in like Australian athletics because of there you go, set 32 world records.
32 world records.
Yeah,
represented Australia. Yeah, represented Australia 27 times. So she won gold at here we go. So the 19
of her in the shop, Moose.
Yeah, 1990 Com Games, 94 Com Games, and then she got silver at the 98 Com Games, and then she won bronze at the 99 World Champs, and what other one? Where was it? And silver in the 87 World Champs, and I think she won gold as well at one of the World Indoor Champs when they obviously had race walking there. So anyway, I'll often see her out at Mulligan's on the bike. So I'm sure some of our older listeners would be aware of who Kerry Saxby is. Yeah.
Indoor race walking.
Yeah, they must have been a thing back in the day.
There you go.
So that was 10 mile. That afternoon, I jumped on the treadmill for 30 minutes, or 32 minutes at 5-minute K to 6.5K. And then, Sunday, did 32K at 4:04s. So it was a week of 157. So body's good. That'll be my biggest week. So I'll only run like an hour 45 probably this Sunday.
That's a big week.
Yeah, so I think I've had my last 3 have been between like 153 and 157. So.
All right, question for Brady first. Brady, what do you reckon the big man would have run at Jells?
It's hard to know, isn't it? It's hard to know.
We were there.
15:10. We sound like a perfect morning U-turn. So what do we give that, like a 15:05? On the track, 15 dead? I don't know. I'm
asking about
Jells.
Jells.
What are the 15 dead guys run at Jells? What kind of shape do you reckon you're in? Isn't there a rule, take 4 minutes off? Maybe 19 dead, same as you.
Is your internet all right? Is your internet all right?
Can you guys hear me okay?
Can now.
Patchy?
Shit.
Why is it even relevant?
No, I'm interested. This is a good combo.
Hang on, I'll change my internet settings.
I want to hear where Brady's head's at with this.
I think he's fit. I think he's fit. But I don't know I didn't think I'd run what I ran at Jells. Like, it's hard to convert road times to cross country. I was impressed by this move.
About 1905, I reckon.
I already started
comparing. What do you
comparing.
reckon you would have run, Croaks?
I've got no idea. I've never run Jells before.
Do you think you're fitter than Moose, Croaks?
I've had no idea.
Oh.
Didn't you just beat Gunther, though? And didn't you say Gunther's not going real good?
He had a good one, though. He dusted a few. Took us from 8th to 5th in one leg.
Yeah. I'm going okay. I'm going okay for an old guy who... Look, what I need to do is string together another 6 months, because if I look back to when I was running my best, it was 2017 and 2018. So 2017, I basically ran Canberra Marathon. So I had a really good start of the year, ran Canberra Marathon, had a really good next few months until I got injured before Berlin. Missed like 5 or 6 weeks, and then had a really good block again until Lake Biwa. So I had pretty much a year where I didn't really miss too much. That's what I need to get back to.
Yeah, well, the bars are looking good on Strava. It's a fine looking, what do you call that? Progression?
Yeah. Well, I started back sessions at the end of Jan. So when we did a session, Moose, in Bathurst, I think I'd been back doing sessions like 2 or 3 weeks. So I'm significantly fitter than I was back then. And even then I thought that session was okay. So anyway.
30 is the goal, Croaks, for Sydney 10. Heard you mention that.
I reckon I can't see myself going much faster than 30. I just don't think I've got the sustained low 3-minute Ks in me. It's a real fine line for me. I think if I dip under 3-minute Ks for too long, I just don't have that tolerance for it, just based on the training that I'm doing and how comfortable I feel at 3 minute K. So it's a real small window there of like low 3 minutes to like 3:02 to 3:05 sort of thing. That's probably my range. So if I ran 30:30, I'd be pretty happy. 30:30 to 30:45, 30:50, I'd be content. I'd be disappointed if I ran slower than 31:30.
Closed out the long run too. How about this, Brady? Last hill, 32K mark, 17 meters of climbing, which is what you get in your entire 30K run. He's run that in 3:50.
He's a fit man.
That's going up a fucking big hill right there.
Yeah, he's a fit man, Moose.
This
Don't
bloke,
sleep on him.
pace, that's 3:20.
I was
For me,
asking
that's
today
a good.
what
Like, but if you look, Moose, from 25K to that point, it's pretty much downhill. So I've had like 7K of not having to work real hard.
But that's because you climbed it beforehand. You
Yeah.
climb the hill, you go down the hill. This was on the way back up the other hill.
But I guess this is back to that conversation where, like, it's made me realise that, like, I don't know, like, there's no point me focusing on any shorter stuff. Like, you know, my strength is this longer stuff, so I just need to keep, like, stay in one piece, but almost increase my mileage again, I reckon. Like, while my body's good, like, I want to get back to running 160, the odd 170K week, and that's the way I'm going to get back to breaking 220 for the marathon, I reckon.
Yeah, I'm going to be the like the voice on your shoulder saying that you don't need to be running 350 uphill at the end of 32K after a time trial. That's me worrying about you. That's me just being on your shoulder at the 32K mark going, hey, maybe I should just go up at 4 minutes a K, and that will still be the equivalent of 340s.
Well, in the Super Blast, Moose, that is the equivalent of 4 minute Ks.
There's no plate there. We know this. We know it doesn't work. No plate, no cheating.
Anyway, as I said last week, it's like absolutely loving my running at the moment. It helps when your body's, you know, there's no niggles, and I feel like I'm moving really well. So I hope it continues. But yeah, like the next 2 weeks I've got like a pretty solid session tomorrow, and then after that it all pretty much just shuts down.
Cool. People up and about.
10.
It's good to see. Moose, you got 15 minutes until Andy joins us. Do you reckon you can fit your week into that time?
Easy. Yep, easy. Monday, 40 in the morning, and then ran in the Arvo, another 40 odd. That was in the evening, actually. That was the night run. So it was a tester there. Got a couple of pictures of splits of some good marathoners. Both ran at Canberra. Both came home very strong or was super even. So Matt Blaschke and Josh Wilmot, that's kudos there. Thought I'd start to push the mileage out a bit this week. So I got 70 minutes in instead of 60, and it was pretty hilly that Tuesday morning. That was Tuesday morning, was it? Shit. So that means that on Wednesday morning we did the workout. That doesn't make sense to me, but 8 by 3 minutes. So we went to Deakin, and instead of going on the track, we were working out on the path around. There's like a cross-country trail around it. It's dirt. It is not real flat in some spots. And then we did go through some grassy sections at some point. So I just wanted to get used to not being on flat ground and kind of just maybe even getting into some rhythm and judging what effort I need for the weekend. So 8 by 3 minutes. The recoveries were 30 seconds of walking, and then we jogged for 30 seconds. There was a group at the start, so Doki, Matt Gunther and myself, we were together. Then it was just me and Matt ran the rest of the workout pretty much together after about the third rep. Bloody hard work this. This is something that I also haven't done, Croaks, is run these type of VO2 sessions. I've done heaps of threshold, heaps of sub-threshold stuff. And the first 3 reps, okay, not a problem. The 4th rep, we turned and went uphill for like the whole way. And shit got real there. Like lactate started flooding through me. And I wasn't great at getting rid of it. So the last minute of each rep was pretty tough. So if I just go to the splits, the pace first one was 3:22, then 3:15. Then we had a downhill one was 2:59. Then we went uphill 3:11. That was the one that got me, I reckon. And then uphill again 3:19 pace, and then downhill 3:07, 3:13, and then 3 minutes to finish. But yeah, this was a nasty little workout. I think I really liked it. Felt like going over the hills is quite good. It's got different muscle use, a few corners as well. So not like a track workout at all. I ran with Matt, so it's good to have someone pushing you along too, because I'm just that little bit fitter than Ellie at the moment. So every time we did a workout, I was comfortable in it. And then when you have someone next to you who's turns out is very equal fitness, you can get it into probably a little bit deeper stage of hurt. And there's a bit of mental stuff about that. Like if every workout that you do, and this is one of the things around like the whole massive amounts of threshold training, is that mentally you don't really get tested at all. It's not challenging. So you have to race quite a bit, I think, in order for that to really work. For some people that need to get conditioned mentally to sort of get themselves close to the flame. And so I think adding these in, even for those types of programs, adding in sessions like this once every maybe 3 or 4 weeks is a good idea.
Yeah. The only other way I've found to get similar without going out and doing like what you did here or what I did last week was some like fartleks over like a hilly terrain, because you do get to the back end of that sort of stuff and you're like, oh yeah, this is feeling close to the back end of how a race feels, even though you're probably not running race pace just because of the terrain.
Yeah.
But mentally you're in the same point where it's like, man, I would give anything for a bit of flat ground, find a bit of rhythm here, which then I think when you get to a race and you are on the flat, you're like, oh, how easy is this? I'm not having to, grind up a hill.
Yeah. And I got to Jells, and I don't think maybe only at like the 5K mark at Jells was when I started to feel like it hurt more than this workout did. Yeah. So that was pretty interesting. I thought it prepared me perfectly, actually. So the next day, I actually ate terribly after that. This was a bit of a learning lesson for me as well, is that workout I do before work, walk the dog, have a shower, get to work. And then I get to work and I'm like, fuck, I get into work straight away. I'm like, geez, I got to get breakfast at some point. And then it gets busy and I don't eat properly. And I don't plan well. And so I actually have to go out and buy a lot of my food. So if we're busy or I'm on a roll with something, I don't go out and buy it. So I just end up not eating enough. And then, the next day I ran 10K in the morning and I was fucked. Like I actually had to stop at one point and just pretty much compose myself, like, because I was so fatigued. And I thought, okay, get home now. Like I knew what I felt was the problem. I used to feel like this on a lot of my double runs when I was doing big volume. And I got this on a 10K run the day after a single run day, purely because I wasn't eating enough.
Did you eat that morning race?
No.
Okay.
No.
Straight out.
So pretty much like had a coffee, and then my mindset was, it's only 45 minutes. I don't really need to eat before this, but I should have. So I ate a lot that day, and I actually felt a heap better in the afternoon, like way better. And I just did 8K. And so, I did another 70 minutes the day after. So 70 for me is now my new 60. That was 2 days before Jells, so that was Thursday. Friday, just an hour, and I did some surges towards the back of it. And then Jells, so I'm missing a cool down, I reckon, maybe. I was leg 5. I was leg 6, so the back end. So the way the race kind of played out is, it's a new course. So that's probably the main thing that I didn't realize. I didn't know the course was different. Did you know the course was different before you got there?
From when?
Brady?
From last year.
Yeah.
There was a tiny bit of difference at the start there. Is that what you mean?
Oh, well, I didn't run there last year.
Yeah, and you probably haven't done it for a couple of years, have you?
Nah, so this was a big because I remember you used to go straight up that hill and keep going up and then go around that playground.
Oh, mate, that's been like 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, really? Okay. Yeah, I haven't done it this new course yet. So I was excited by that. I like this new course. I thought the new course was brilliant. I thought it felt a way more like a cross country, like a proper cross country course rather than running around a park. Like I didn't like the bushy section that the old course used to have, and so this was much more just through the grass sections. And there's more ups and downs rather than one big long up and one big long down. So to me, this was a really big improvement from AV, even though it might not have been a new course for a lot of people. It was for me. So it's funny because we were on the 5th leg as I was sort of jogging around warming up. Ballarat had come up on Geelong. So I think we were in 7th place. And so Ballarat had come up and was sitting right behind Matt Gunther on his whole first lap, like tucked in, like a track race. And as they went past me waiting at the changeover point to go onto their second lap, I looked at the kid running and I'm like, this Ballarat guy looks fine. Like Gunther doesn't look bad, but this guy's barely breathing. About 200 metres later, Gunther dagged him and then finished 50 seconds, put 50 seconds into him in 3K. So pretty deceptive, the impression that I was getting as they went past. And then Gunther also caught up Mentone and St. Stephen's on this leg. So I got the changeover. I was in 5th place. And so I was G'ing myself up. Me and the Ballarat fella, Matty Caddison, I was standing there and I was putting the heater on him in the changeover zone. I told him, I said, mate, you better not fuck this up. Ballarat's never come this close to Geelong in like 5-6 years. And you're going to cop this and everyone's watching you. You better not fuck it up. And he was like, no, I'm right. It turns out that Gunther put 50 seconds in, so I'm the one that had to kind of not fuck it up. And that was what I thought, like the first K in my head, I'm like, okay, you don't need to blast this first lap because if you do, you might blow up. And then you've got 3 teams that are relatively close behind you. And I think that was really helped me how I ran. So I ran pretty even, actually. I thought I was really happy with my splits as I looked, considering it's a hilly course. I ran 3.7, 3.5, 3.7, 3.11, 3.10, 3.5. So that's pretty that's me going out conservative as well.
What was the variation in the laps, Moose? Do you know? Lap 1, lap 2. Have you worked that out?
Yeah. I could probably tell. Yeah, I'll tell you. I think I went through in about. I went through in 9:32. So I reckon, what's that? I came home in 9:30, basically. 9:32, 9:30. Yeah, pretty good, right? Pretty well paced. Yep. That's not bad, and that's a time trial because no one was there. Like the guy in front of me, Box Hill, was 90 seconds in front, and Ballarat, he ran 30 seconds slower than me.
No, so this can't be right. It says 3:07, 3:05, 3:07 for the first lap, then 3:11, 3:10, 3:05.
Well, I'm just looking at
slowed, I reckon. Oh, but your watch has measured it a bit long.
I'm looking at the point where I went through. It says 9:32 at the point that I started at.
Next year, hit your lap button, can you? Get some real accurate
data.
I
was planning on it, but I was just caught up, mate. Anyway,
caught up racing.
I was really happy with that. That was a good one for me, and I was pretty happy to see I was the second fastest time in the Geelong team as well. So a little bit more power within the team, but Jells Park always sorts out who's got the power, who's got the say with the team dynamics for the rest of the year. So it goes Toby Mende first, me second, Gunther third, which was fun. Geelong ended up 5th, so a really good result for us because we we had a skeleton of a team this week. We were lucky to scrape through. So 5th place with a skeleton team, that's good for us. You can talk about Bendigo, of course you will later. But ran 30K the next day through the bush. Purposely had the brakes on for this one because I didn't want to stretch it out too much because I thought I might sneak this run in before the DOMs got a bit nasty. 24K we stopped, 20K we dropped a few fellas off at the car, and I was like, oh yeah, the quads are a bit banged up here. So I got the 10K in, finished 30K, 429s, and I'm like, all right, get prepared to be sore. But I've actually woken up fine, so I'm pretty happy. 123K for the week, and now this is the week now that I pick up the mileage. All going well. Do some more mileage this week.
Good to see you're in action. Bring the team home. Should we see if our friend Andy Buchanan's available? You did keep that under 15 minutes. Well done.
That's good, Moose.
Easy. Slide through.
Timed it perfectly.
PB at Jells, PB on a weekly recap.
That's not a PB at Jells, mate. Come on. Come on.
On that course, though, you haven't ran that one before.
That's right.
19 flat. Jeez, I was going for that sub 19 too.
Did you look at your watch at all?
Yeah, I had a few peaks down at the average pace. And I'm like, oh, okay, 3.6 will probably get me there. And then I think I finished in 3.7 maybe.
That's good going. Good going.
Where's Andy at then?
Or
do you want me to keep going? Because I'm happy to fucking keep going if you want me.
I don't think you could recap any longer. I'm trying to get him in now. He did have a bigger run on the weekend. He ran the Hamburg Marathon. He ran 2 hours, 10 minutes, and I've got to get these seconds right. 20 seconds, 20. I think it was. Yeah, for 9th overall in the race and equaled the 9th fastest Australian marathon of all time. Welcome to the Inside Running Podcast, Andy Buchanan. Can you hear us?
Yeah, hey guys, how are we going?
Got you loud and clear. Yeah, we're going good, thanks, Andy. Just sat through Moose recapping. I think they said Geelong comes 7th or 8th or something at Jells Park.
5th, mate.
5th, was it? Yeah, one of the longest recaps you'll ever hear. But congratulations on your run over in Hamburg. Probably just over 24 hours ago now.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm a little bit out of whack at the moment with all the different time zones and that, and the travelling and all that. But yeah, I'm not surprised Moose is happy with 5th. That's a good result by Geelong. They'd be stoked with that.
Yeah, not bad. What did you come?
I think we came 3rd. So
no. What did you come?
Oh, what did I come? I think I came 11th. So
yeah, I take 5th, mate.
yeah. I heard you got carried though by your team.
No, well done. I did enjoy having your tracker up, Andy, for the run, and pretty exciting, mate. Your run.
Oh, thank you.
Tell us all about it, Andy. Yeah, how'd it pan out?
Yeah, so I suppose there was a pace group going 64:45, and I thought, yep, that's perfect for me. I was keen to take a few risks this time around, and because both marathons I've done, I've felt really in control, which I know you need to, but I was just keen to kind of push the envelope a little bit. And yeah, pace group, 2 guys, we went through in halfway in like 64:44, so it was like bang on, really good group, and that's why I went to Hamburg, because last year I just had such a good experience with a good group, and I think that's so important to not get lonely in that last 10, 15, 20K. So, yeah, had a good group. I was expecting it to feel a little bit easier. I think just after having ran 2, your mind starts to think, oh yeah, I've done 2 of these. It's going to get easier each time, but it definitely didn't. And the body probably felt like my left calf started to hurt around the 27th K, which I've never had any of that in my first 2. Like I've just had more of like an overall fatigue. But thankfully that just kind of lingered. It didn't get any worse. So yeah, I felt pretty good throughout. You know what it's like. You go through good patches and bad patches, and it's just making sure you don't get too excited on those good patches and making sure you don't get too down in those bad patches.
Did you have a plan, or did you have a pack that you really wanted to stay with? And the guy, did you know who was in the pack, like other people?
Yeah, so my roommate, a guy from Portugal, he actually finished about 6 seconds ahead of me. We ran the whole way together, which was awesome. And like it was so cool because we got to know each other. Like you're rooming with this person, so you get to know them. And then you know what it's like, those bonds that you create during a marathon when you do it with someone. Like it's like you've known them for 10 years.
Yeah.
So that was really cool. And it was funny. We had these two pacemakers, a guy from Europe and a guy from Kenya. And the guy from Europe was always going to drop out at 30. And I was hoping the guy from Kenya might just kind of keep going, as sometimes they do. They're just like, oh, it's easier to finish kind of thing than wait for a van. And the European guy said, oh, I'm going to drop out at 30 to this African guy, Hope. And I think he was like just giving him a bit of warning. And then he dropped out at 30 and the African guy, and then the European guy was like, oh shit, I'll go on a little bit more. So he dropped out at 32. But then myself and this Portuguese guy, he was a lot stronger than me in the last 10K, and he probably led maybe 70% of the time. And I did a little bit of leading, and it was just so good to have someone there. And his coach was there on the bike, and he was kind of just talking to him in Portuguese, and he was talking to me, and I had no idea what was happening, but it was a good vibe. So I was really happy. That was my plan, to go with that group. And to be honest, I was thinking, is it a little bit too fast? But I was like, I'll reassess 5K in. Like I'm normally pretty good at judging that kind of stuff. And if anything, I'm a little bit more sensible than aggressive during a race. And I thought I'll just see how those first few K play out. But I looked at my watch only when I hit lap at 5K, 10K, 15K, 20K. And I don't think I looked till about 25 or 26K. And I knew we were on pace at halfway, and I was like, this is a good group. Let's just kind of keep going. And then you get to 30K and you're like, all right, this is where the race starts. So, yeah.
Hey, Andy, firstly, congratulations. It's good to see you knock a few big names off the all-time list. But my question is, at what point in your training did you think you were capable of running 2:10, and what has changed in your training from the last two marathons to this one?
Yeah, thanks, Croaks. I hadn't looked at that all-time list until a few people started sending me a message saying, oh, you're ninth, rah, and it's like, it's a little bit of like pinch yourself moment, because like I thought I could run 2:10, but you know how before a race you always dream big and you think of the best scenario and you tell yourself, yeah, I can run these times, but it's another thing actually doing it on the day. So I still don't see myself in that elite company when you look at that all-time list, and it's like I think they'll take a little bit to sink in, and it is quite special because like we've got a lot of good marathoners in Australia, and it's good to see that. I think like credit to Brett, because he's kind of paving the way at the moment, and I think making it a little bit more I don't know, like guys like me are thinking, hey, we could probably have a crack at doing this. So, really stoked to run it. I only found out the pace groups probably 3 or 4 weeks ago. So I knew I was in good shape, but I was never really, like during my training, I never specifically target a certain pace. I just kind of really go off effort. And because a lot of my training's by myself, I really just stick to that and don't get too caught up on what my watch is telling me. So it's not like I planned 12 weeks ago, all right, I'm going to try and run 2:10:20. Like that was never the plan. And it was more so just once I found out the pace groups, and I heard it was 3:04, 3:05 kind of pace. We did a few little marathon sessions at that pace in the last few weeks. And I was like, yeah, I think I probably got enough confidence through them to think I could at least have a crack at it. But yeah, training hasn't really changed that much. Scott's got a pretty rigid kind of training program that's kind of worked really well for him, worked well for other marathoners, and worked well for me in the past. So, and there was a few sessions that I did last time, and I a little bit quicker. So I thought I'm a little bit fitter. I knew World Cross was really, like, it was actually kind of perfect training for me. And I really only had about 8 weeks of marathon training, which isn't that much. But I think because I run 2.5 hours every Sunday, I have pretty big high mileage. That's all I need. So yeah, nothing changed dramatically. And it's not like I sat down ages ago and thought, all right, I want to try and run this time. How am I going to get there? It was just more so just kind of part of the process.
Andy, 40 seconds off the qualifying time for the World Champs and Olympics, I think it is. Do you know how many points and stuff, or where does this put you on the rankings to try to get in that way?
Yeah, so it's 40 seconds off World Champs, but it's a fair way off Olympics because that's 2:08:20. I'm pretty sure. But I think, I don't know, I had a very quick chat with Nick last night, and he reckons I'll be okay for World Champs. So I just got to, I really want to try to make Paris. I'm really, really keen to try to go to the Olympics. And I don't know if I'll do, if I get selected, if I'll do World Champs, or do I try to chase a better, faster marathon. But then also you look at World Champs, if that's not that well supported, top 10 are guaranteed a spot to the Olympics. So is that an easier way? So yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't want to get too caught up in that stuff just yet, because you spend 8 or 10 weeks working pretty hard for something, and I think you've got to try to enjoy the moment. That's probably one thing I learned a bit last year. Enjoy the moment and just chill for a week or two, and then kind of start thinking what's next.
Well, this question's kind of heading in that direction, so you can just not answer it. But would you look to maybe take running more seriously? You pretty much work full time with your teaching load and your coaching, run the PB coaching load. Would you potentially look to limit those things so you can live more like a professional athlete? Or is there any chat with Nick Bedell about potential contracts or sponsors?
Yeah, I would love to, but I suppose you've got to make money somehow. So I think I've got an okay balance at the moment, but I know comparing myself to a lot of other people around that are running 210, there's not many guys that are running that work full time. So I'd love to obviously focus more on running, but I think going forward I will try to work less and run more. But I'm not sure, and I haven't had those chats with Nick yet. It's only a day since I ran that time, so I'm not expecting anything to come through today or anything like that. But hopefully this is a step in the right direction, hopefully.
Yeah. Any more questions for him, boys?
Which was your most favourite session during the block? I'm just scrolling through your Strava here at the moment. I saw Spedding Fartlek.
Yep.
So what was the one that gave you the most confidence?
Oh, there's a few different ones. So I really like that Spedding Fartlek, but it doesn't really give me that much confidence. I'm not sure why. I think I get through it quite easily. Probably the hardest one, and the one that if I would be my go-to, is I do a 16K at a kind of half marathon effort. So it's nearly like a race kind of effort. So I did that probably 4 weeks ago. And I can't remember what I ran off the top of my head. But I know I ran pretty fast. It might have been 3:02s for 16K. And I felt in control. So that's something that gave me a fair bit of confidence. And then there's a few other times where I think there's one time where I did 16K and then had a bit of a rest and then did 4K at 2:56s or something like that. So those bigger sessions are what I take a fair bit of confidence from, and it's more so how I feel during them than rather just the pace, because you can be running 3:02 and it feel easy, or you can run 3:02 and it feels very hard. So it's just I don't know, but I don't have a set session that really boosts my confidence. It's more so consistently good Friday sessions and then good long runs and just week on week on week kind of thing. That's what I'm also get my confidence from, rather than one big session.
Yeah,
it's good. Good example you are of someone who is isn't like a superstar junior or anything like that, but has just stuck at it, and now is like 9th fastest Australian ever. And it's like, I love seeing that, and it's I think it shows a lot. Like, a lot of our current batch are like that of marathoners. Well, you and Ellie in particular seem to be like that. You speak on that a little bit?
Yeah, it's something like, because I coach at school and coach a fair bit of a few kids in Bendigo, and they, I tell them, like, I never made it to nationals, like on the track until I was open age, and my very first nationals cross was when I was 18, and they all get caught up with how they're going at 14 or 15. I'm like, this honestly doesn't matter. Like, don't stress. And I think, and it's not only the kids I tell that to, but the parents. Like, they want their kids to do well, and I understand that, but it really doesn't matter. And I think that's kind of that flows through to the kids I coach, but then also the older kids I coach. Like, like Matt Buckler is a good example. Like, he's been running since he was in high school, but he's got so much room to improve now as a 20-year-old, which is what you want, rather than maxing out at 16, 17 and then not having any wiggle room. And I still feel like even though I'm 32 now, I feel like I've still got so many years of running in me, and I know I can continue to improve because my training age is so much lower than the normal 32-year-old. So I think it's, I don't know, hopefully we're changing it, because you see some of these juniors and you just really worry, and you just think, shit, how are they, like, who really cares what they're doing at under 20? Like, it doesn't matter if you win under 20 nationals. It's try to make an open team. That's, in my opinion, that's what really matters. So yeah, and I think so many people are on that. Like, the fact people are celebrating like 12-year-old 5K world records is just stupid, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
So but that's all right. Everyone can do what they wish, and we'll just get grumpy about it on a podcast.
Yeah. 7 years ago, like, I was in Ballarat. We were looking at Bendigo, and I actually had Jamie Cook as a better runner than you back then, and I'd predicted him as a better marathoner.
Right, Andy was like the 7th best runner in Bendigo back when I was living there.
That's what I mean.
He used to smoke him up all the time. Imagine how I feel about this.
Look like this. What?
He's just consistent.
Just running more, you reckon?
Should say he works hard, Moose. And that's the thing about Andy. A lot of people don't realise. Like, Saturday morning, he was submitting our Bendigo Bats cross-country team to, like, Athletics Victoria. Like, he works hard behind the scenes, works hard his job. You know, just a common man out there putting in the work, and now he gets the good results.
Tradie singlet stuff.
Man of the people.
I'm definitely not wearing a tradie singlet. But no, I like, and Brady does talk a lot of shit on this podcast, but he has been 100% legitimate there. When we were running around Bendigo like 8-10 years ago, Brady would towel me up. And I think it's just, I started training when I was 18, and then I enjoyed my uni life, which I don't have any regrets about. And then finally found Scott, and then it's just progressed from there. But even after 2 or 3 years of Scott coaching me, I wasn't a superstar. And yeah, you'll probably rolling me at XCR, which is funny to think, Moose. And if
I actually don't think so at all. Can't remember beating you ever.
I definitely know Croaks rolled me at Sydney 10.
Oh, mate, brings it up every week.
Hey, sure did.
He
I think Brady was
last
in that
week.
race as well.
Yeah, he brings it up all the time, Andy. Did you hear Moose's prediction for you last week? He had you down for 2:15, a bit of a blow-up, I think.
Really? I didn't hear that. So
you got to have a bad one soon.
Well, he's 3 from 3
it's
now.
Got to happen. It's got to happen. You can't just roll along but pulling them out your ass every time.
No, I think, I don't know. I'm not, like, I still respect the marathon, but I'm not scared of it. And this is, I remember talking to you, and we've spoken about this a few times, Moose, where I said to you, I just wanted to get one on the board and learn the marathon. And I feel like I've done that. And I was really happy with this, but I was really, really keen to run sub 2:10. And I think I really want to go to a Valencia or somewhere like that, because this course, like, really isn't that fast. And a few guys that have ran this Hamburg and Valencia, they say, oh, you know what it's like. They pull out numbers, but you just never know. But I think there is more there. And I think the marathon, I'm just so suited to it because I can consistently knock out big Ks. I'm pretty good over hills, like cross country, that kind of stuff. So I think I'm really suited to it. And I kind of wish I started a few years earlier, maybe, but I know, like, I planned that, but with COVID, that kind of screwed things up a little bit. But I'm confident there's a little bit more there.
But so you're on the bus to the start line in the morning. In your head, like, honestly, are you thinking today I'm going under 210?
Yeah, honestly, that's what I thought. And I think, like, because I was staying with Brett here in Teddington for probably 2 weeks, and like that confidence and that full-time athlete like rubs it off on you, and it's just like when you're living with a guy that's ran 207, like you just start to like let down those gates that you naturally set up, kind of thing. And I honestly I was a little bit disappointed, but then I was like, no, hang on, it's a 2-minute PB. Don't be stupid. But I honestly thought I could run 209.50 something. Like, I made a bet with Ellie that if I ran sub 210, I had to go into London last night, join them at the hotel and have some beers. And I honestly thought that's what I'd be doing last night. So, but yeah,
bloody close. Your tracker was showing you up until 40K. Your tracker had you on it, basically.
Yeah, I think it's those last like 5 or 10K, like I find the hardest part is once you get to 40K, you're okay because you're like 2K, that's just 6 minutes or whatever pace you're running of hard work. But that 35 to 40K is so hard, and you feel like you're running faster, but you're dropping like just 2 or 3 seconds, and that every K really, really hurts you. And like, I think my slowest K was like a 3:13, which was at 38th or 39th. And that it's really hard to keep on it. I'm honestly a little bit disappointed, but I know that I think it's there next time if I'm in a quicker race. So,
what did you do last night, Andy, instead of celebrating with Ellie?
So I was in Hamburg for a little bit, had to fly back to London at about 6 o'clock. So I had a few beers in the hotel, which was good, and then had a few beers at the airport with a Swedish guy that I met last year and seen him a few times. Got back into Teddington, got to the house, and then treated myself to some Nando's. So just walked up and sat down at Nando's and enjoyed a nice chicken burger there. The Nando's over here hits differently. It's so much better than Nando's in Australia. So
by yourself?
Yeah,
though?
Nothing. Yeah, by myself.
Remember the time we had Jack on when he broke the Australian 10K record? He was just walking around the streets by himself as well.
Yeah, well, because like Nick, Ali, and Brett, they were all in the race hotel in at London, and like it's probably an hour's train ride, and I was just like, you have all these grand plans, and then the day kind of wears on you, and your legs are getting sorer and sorer, and you're just like, oh, I just want some food, and I just want to go to bed. So, but nah, it was all right. I actually, big shout out to Courtney Carter. He's a Hamburg local these days, and I had made some plans to catch up with him, but I had to move my flight a bit earlier, so I couldn't catch up with him. But I saw him about 5 times on the course, and he's a massive help because you're over there. It's easy to forget like all those things that mean a lot to you in people back home, that kind of stuff, because you're in a foreign country. They're all speaking German. No one's cheering for you. You're completely by yourself. And to hear that Aussie accent, like it means so much. So big shout out to Courtney because he's really helped me the last 2 years. So I really owe him a beer. So hopefully next time I can catch up with him.
Yep, sent us through some photos as well. Courtney did, Patreon supporter, long time listener, good bloke. Andy, back now, tomorrow, when you fly home, back to work?
Yeah, flying home this afternoon. So I arrive in Melbourne at midnight on Tuesday, and then back to work Wednesday morning. So should be good.
Blue collar. All right, mate. Well, thanks for your time. Moose, so hopefully we see him at
you.
Albert Park in a couple of weeks.
Oh, yeah? You reckon?
That'd be good.
I'm not hoping that.
I'm hoping
I don't
that.
need him there.
Just a
We
little,
don't need him there at all.
maybe a little tempo in 30-30. Get some points.
Yeah, hopefully I can get into the top. Hopefully I can get into the top team.
Oh, yeah,
We'll
you're
see.
shit. Your team's shit now.
Oh,
No problems there.
I'll be recapping my week. That's how long Moose went for. I just haven't even got to my week yet, Andy.
Oh, that's the thing. 7th is like a celebration down there in Geelong.
Oh, they're up
Tell you
and
what,
about with their
you've-
9th position.
The
Oh,
Bats, general
Yeah,
vibe
it's
around
not.
Jells Park is the Bats are a very unlikable team right now.
It's because we're the best.
You're doing your hardest to make yourself unlikable.
People don't like the best.
Anyway, Andy, we'll let you go. Safe travels back, and
Nah,
thanks
thanks,
again for your
guys.
time.
Thanks for having me on, guys. See you later.
Thanks, Andy.
See you,
Bye.
mate. Congrats again.
Bye.
I'm whistling through this week, fellas, because I won't actually get to London Marathon. I jogged easy Monday and Tuesday, and then Wednesday I did a workout. I did 4x3k, sat around like 3:17 pace, off 2 minutes jog. Nothing special, just trying to like do some longer kind of workouts to not stir up this hamstring. And I find like that 3:15 to 3:20 pace is a pace I can handle pretty well and recover well off the next day. So did that midweek on the Wednesday, jogged 15k on Thursday, and then 7k in the afternoon. Did 10k on Friday, and then like Moose, I was at the Jells Park Relays on Saturday. Actually stayed in Bendigo Friday night to make the drive a bit shorter. I ran leg 4 of 6. So a bit messy, like you're just lapping people. Heaps of bodies out there in the middle there. We were tied for 3rd when I took over, so it was me and Box Hill changing together. And then I just love Jells Park. Like I just love the course. I just think it's challenging, but at the same time it's pretty easy because there's no really big hills. And I feel like every time you go up a bit of a hill, you get a nice kind of downhill afterwards. Pretty technical though. There's some tight turns in there. I was a bit concerned going into this just because I haven't really done a lot of intensity probably for the last month. I think it's probably a good estimate. Probably been jogging a lot of like Ks and some good long runs, but not a lot of workouts. So I was kind of thinking 19:30, 20 minutes might have been kind of what I ran, but I really wanted to just make sure I didn't go silly early and just kind of almost do the first lap comfortable and then use the energy you got left in that second lap. I was pretty even. I ran the first lap in 9:22 and then 9:18 for the second one. 18:41 was my official time, which was only 15 seconds slower than last year. I ran 18:26 last year and was running pretty well. So, I don't know. That surprised me quite a bit, to be honest. I didn't think I was in that
Wasn't
kind
it
of
wet
shape.
last year though?
No, it rained at the last leg last year. It come in really late. But yeah, when I ran last year, it wasn't. I ran second last year. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe there's something in. I guess there is. Like just the strength work. It's still a 6K cross-country race. So although like the fast kids were still running quick there, I've still been averaging like 140, 150 Ks. And that's still going to help you when you get on a cross-country course. So that was good. Kept the Bats in 3rd. I think I put a minute into the Box Hill guy. And then we kind of sat there, get the bronze medal.
You run even too?
Yeah, 4 seconds difference, Moose. 9:22, 9:18. I felt great. I was like, it felt very similar to what that golden ticket race felt like at Bathurst, where I was kind of like very conservative early and I just had fun like backing it up on the second part of the course. So yeah, I quite enjoyed it. So maybe the fitness hasn't taken the hit that I thought it had. Then I was tired though on Sunday. I was stiff, sore, had a blister.
How long though? How long is that trip, right?
Yeah.
6 hours or such.
Yeah. We left at 8:30 from Bendigo on Saturday morning and I got home at 7:30 p.m. back to Moama Saturday night. So like an 11-hour day. So I just intentionally just said I'm just doing 2 hours, averaged 4:21s. Was actually feeling okay, but I'm like, there's more risk than reward here. I haven't done any intense stuff. I've jumped in a pair of spikes. I've sat in the car for like 6-7 hours. Let's not get greedy here and do a 35, 36K kind of long run. So my week was 150. Good. Think the hammy issue's gone. Good race. Build from there. Let's thank some Patreon supporters, eh? Do it. Who you got,
All
Crows?
right. I've got Andrew Gattenby. Andrew's from Canberra. He's run 16:14 for 5K, which was at the 2021 Runner Shop 5K, and 77 minutes at the 2021 Canberra half. But he predominantly focuses on hilly trail races. He had a good year last year, finishing second at the UTA Cozzy 27, fourth at the UTA 50K behind Benny Saint, second at the Buffalo Stampede 20K, and fourth at the Aussie Mountain Running Champs. We actually did a session with him the week after Bathurst. He was up there actually Bathurst. Brady did the long run with us, and after the golden ticket. He was training for 6 foot track, but got injured a couple of weeks out. So thanks for your support, Andrew.
Good on you, Andrew. Who you got, Moose?
Mark Grennan. He is a member of the Second Captain's Patreon page. He may have run 3:23 at the 2012 Dublin Marathon. Other than that, we've got nothing.
Okay.
Gee, that's going back. They even have the internet back then?
Yeah, well, struggling to get anything on Mark.
Yeah, what's the Second Captains?
Don't know.
Is that like a cricket podcast or something?
It's just when you're on Patreon and you click on their profile, it tells you which other Patreon pages they support.
Oh.
Does it?
Brady will do a bit of research on that, Brady.
Good, yeah.
Second Captains.
Well, no, I've got to read this out. Robert North, I'm thanking you, from Crow's Nest, New South Wales. That's on the other side of the Harbour Bridge, isn't it, Croaks?
Crow's Nest, just North Sydney, yeah.
Yep. Formula One fan, by the looks of it, as he went to the Singapore GP. Does a lot of sessions at Gore Hill Park, which is a nice synthetic oval. Very popular running location in Sydney, I think. See this on Instagram all the time. They wear spikes on that, or they just go like racing flats? Super shoes.
Yeah, I think you can wear spikes on it.
Can ya?
Never heard of this place.
It's like, yeah, you would have. Tom Buchanan's always there. It's like a perfect like circle.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, they always banging workouts and sessions around there. Couldn't find many results on him, or any results actually, but we think he runs about 50k a week. Yeah. So thanks, Rob, for your support on Patreon. Mark, Andrew, all the other legendary Patreon supporters over there. Keep the show alive each week. We did a monthly episode with Toby and Christian last week. It was a long one as well. Went for about 90 minutes. Road to London season finale is coming up. I don't know when. I'm sure Nick, Ellie and Sinead have got a time teed up for this week. So that's going to be interesting to hear their recaps of the London Marathon. And you just help us keep the lights on here at the Inside Running Podcast. Make it possible for the show to come out each and every week. Let's hear from...
Second Captains. I think it's a football podcast.
AFL.
Soccer.
Sharing the love around, isn't he? Different couple of podcasts. Good on you, Mark.
This week's episode of the Inside Running Podcast is proudly sponsored by ASICS. Super Blast on, Super Blast off with the ASICS Super Blast shoe. Super Bouncy FF Blast Turbo cushioning on a layer of FF Blast Plus foam for a super energetic ride. Super Lightweight FF Blast Turbo cushioning, which is ASICS' lightest foam yet. Super stacked with ASICS' highest midsole ever, offering a standout running experience and head-turning aesthetics. Visit asics.com.au or your specialty running store to grab your pair today.
Let's go to London Marathon, Moose. You would have been sitting back, I'm sure, tracking Ellie. Do you get nervous with these kind of things? Happen on the other side of the world. All kind of power's gone from you, I guess. Everything's out of your control. Watch it unfold.
Yeah. I wasn't nervous, but I do feel helpless. That's for sure. Like, especially when things start going poorly, you feel. I got really frustrated, and not at Ali or anything. I just got frustrated that you can't do anything. You're literally sitting there, and everything's out of your control, like you said, but you can't help in any way. And so I started getting pissed off at little things around me. But yeah, the race, it was. I mean, because we couldn't see Ali at all on the footage, you could actually watch the race, and it was a good one. So in the men's first, we saw the second fastest marathon ever. It was 16 seconds off the world record. Kelvin Kiptum, the winner at Valencia, he ran 2:01:25, and he's done that off. Check these splits out: 61:40 for the first half into a 59:45 second half. And it was quite remarkable where he made his move. So the bloke's gone through an aid station, and I don't know what distance it was at, but he's basically picked up his drink, and he actually missed his drink. I remember now, because he went for his drink, missed it, and his move was obviously, like, his planned move was to go then, and he's put in a surge on Jeffrey Kemwawa, who was in second, and he would have run, I reckon, about a 62-second 400 there, maybe even quicker, because he hasn't just like gradually increased the pace and sort of just dropped them slightly. He's sprinted off the front, and he held it for about 5 minutes or so, and then you think, okay, like, he has to slow down now. Kemwawa will come back gradually. Like, you can't run that type of effort and just keep going. But turns out when you're Kelvin Kiptum, you can do that, because he's run 59.45 for the second half by himself.
I think it was 13.40, that 5K split. And then like
28.40-ish,
28.50-ish maybe for the 10K, 30 to 40. But you're right.
28 or 27?
Sorry, 27. He looked unsteady. He was going that fast. It looked like he was going to like fall over going around the corners. Like, it looked unsafe.
The move that you saw was like someone kicking in a 1,500 metre race with 200 to go. Against
amazing athletes too. He made them look like they were like, C-grade Vic Miles guys.
Yeah, it didn't look it didn't look real, to be honest. Whereas I was watching it, I'm like, this is supposed to be a fucking marathon. You don't do this in a marathon. This is not how we know the marathon to be. You can't run like that in a marathon. Like, it's like when we saw Sammy Wanjiru do it in Beijing, and everyone's looking at it going, what's this guy doing? Like, this isn't how you run marathons. You don't start surging at 10K in, turn it into like a fartlek. Everyone sits, and then you gradually increase the pace, and then whoever lasts. You don't do this weird shit. It's just like he's turned marathoning on its head, this bloke.
Because he did the same thing in Valencia, except he ran the second half there in like 60-11. Yeah. So he knows how to negative split.
Doesn't he? What? And he's got no problem sticking with the pack early either. Man knows how to win a race. And not only just win a race, but he's the second. You can't even say that, because he's the second fastest guy ever in the world.
And it's his second marathon.
Oh, incredible.
He's only 23 or something too, isn't he?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so he's beat Jeffrey Kemwawa, who we know him, 2:04.23, and Tamarat Tola, who was probably outside of Jeffrey, who's one of my favourites. Tola was the guy I thought was going to win, 2:04.59. We had Brett out there, so Brett was 7th in 2:10.19. So I thought that he was going to go 62.30 pace, but he's gone through the half in 63.38, and he's come home in 66.41. So not an ideal race for Brett. He did have a crack at it. Like, he's gone out at Australian record pace there, and he's come home slower. He did beat Mo Farah, so he beat him by 9 seconds. That would have been nice for him, and he would have got some good love on the way with Mo out there, like being relatively close to him, because the crowds would have been up and about. A lot of camera time on Mo. He ran 2:10.28.
Do you reckon it's hard for Brett now, given like he's got the Aussie record, he's got an Olympic qualifier? It's almost like, well, why not have, he's probably got a license now to have a bit of a crack.
But he always did have a crack anyway.
Yeah.
I can't remember him not having a crack.
But I guess it's gone now. As you said, like, he was planning on going, what was it, 62 something? Like, back then, like, he wouldn't have gone that quick. But yeah, now it's like this new level of like, hey, well, I've got the Aussie record at 2:07. I really want to run like 2:05, 2:06, which means like you got to be going through in, 62 high to 63.
Yeah. Yep. It's going to be tough for him to find the right races, isn't it? Like, where he has 10 to 15 guys around him, not 2 or 3.
And that's the problem with London, because London love just getting the big names. and
100%.
After that, it drops off pretty quick.
It is for sure, and that's what happened with Ellie in a big way. So the women's race, it was a pretty crazy event. I actually loved watching this. I thought this is one of the funnest races I've watched in ages. But Sifan Hassan, who was running in her first marathon, and she's been around a long time now, and she's always done things a bit differently, Sifan, like hanging out the back of 1500s and 5Ks, like way at the back, and then rolling everyone on the last lap. She's run 2:18:33, which isn't the crazy thing about this, is that I was going through the results before, and at the 25K mark, Sifan was 30 or 28 seconds behind the leader, and she stopped and stretched. It looked like she had some sort of cramp or something, or an injury. She stopped and stretched, did like a series of stretches, and the girls ran off on her. And so she ran solo for quite a way until she caught back up at around probably about like 38, 40K, I think it was. So at 40K, Sifan was in the group. At 35K, she was 15 seconds down. So she's between 35 and 40, she's caught up 15 seconds.
And she stopped at like 18, 19K. She stopped very early, and she looked bad. She had a grimace on her face. Like, she stopped twice to stretch. I put out our message group that she's gone. I think the commentators had called it like a bad day for her.
Yeah,
fascinating.
It did look bad. So she's come up to 40K drink station, and she's basically just got onto the group at this stage. They go around a corner. There's a drink on the right-hand side of the road. The corner veers left, though, and so only one of the girls heads out there. Sifan kind of half sees her, considers going for the drink, doesn't, keeps going forward and thinks, shit, I better get that drink. Turns around, runs backward to the tape. This is at the 40K mark of the London Marathon, runs backwards and picks up her drink, and then within 20 seconds has run back onto the pack, looking as calm as ever, and goes to the chick beside her, Yualau, or whatever, I can't pronounce it, Yualau, and offers her a drink.
Yeah, before she even takes one. Just like, I just went there to get it just for you.
Oh, and this girl is like, who the fuck is this next to me doing this to me? I could not. I just burst out laughing when she did that. I thought that was the greatest thing ever. A
flex. That's a massive flex. She's winning this
race easily right now. At that point, I said to Bree, I'm like, she is going to fucking brain these chicks in the last 100 meters. And then she just wanders around, goes back of the pack, front of the pack, side of the pack, and it gets to a 400 to go. She's still at the back, and then it wasn't even close. Gets to 200 to go. Oh, I better get moving now. 100 to go. She's put 10, 20 meters on him, and by the finish, she wins easy. And what a character she is. I love it. I love her. She's what we need in marathoning, I reckon. It
literally looked like a track race the last 200 meters from her. She was so high on her toes, just saluting the crowd. She put 5 seconds into second in 50 meters. And then
she'd be sitting there thinking, how easy is this marathon thing?
That's what she said in her interview afterwards. She's like, really? I was waiting for it to get hard. It never got hard. And then I saw the finish line and thought, is that where the finish line is? Okay, I'll just kick it home. She's been
She's been training through Ramadan.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
So a lot of her runs, she said, I think her longest run was 41K or something, but she's doing it and she's not allowed to drink any water or anything like that. So it almost made her tougher in a way, or it was almost like for the marathon, this is a bonus. They get to actually take on some nutrition during the race, which I haven't been able to do in a lot of my training runs. It's pretty incredible when you think I think that's a month, and it only just finished the week of the race. So
you get a good carb load going then.
Yeah, she's all that. Sorry, keep going.
Oh yeah, well you're not allowed to eat during the sunlight hours, are you?
Yeah. No.
During Ramadan.
So if you were factoring your training, like you'd basically be doing everything just before it gets dark, wouldn't you? So you can then like finish your session and then refuel.
Or you could do long runs and eat during the run while you're training in the dark, maybe. But I'm doubting they're doing that.
Or because the flip side is if you train then late in the afternoon, you've basically you're doing that completely fasted because you've eaten nothing all day.
Yeah, that's true.
So it doesn't matter which way you do it; it's going to be tough.
Is she the greatest female distance runner of all time? Has to be, doesn't she? Like if you look at her range, see like 156 for 800. She was a 1500 metre world champ, mile world record holder, European 3K record holder, 5K Olympic champ and 10K Olympic champ. Half marathon, she got the European record, and now she's won the marathon at London against a stacked field.
She's in the conversation, but I reckon she's not done yet.
Who else has got that range and like the accolades?
Yeah, you're probably just thinking
Helena Beery?
Yeah, someone who's won just like not a Helena Beery, but someone who's down there who's won multiple golds.
Like Tirunesh Dibaba was pretty damn good. Like maybe not over the marathon. Like she still run 2:17.56 Tirunesh Dibaba, but she defended her Olympic 10,000 meter gold medal in London. So she won Beijing and London. She won the 5 and the 10 in Beijing. She won 5 world championship gold medals. A heap of world cross country gold medals. So like
True.
she was pretty good.
World cross, put that in there. Yeah, it'd be good debate.
Part of the debate though.
Yeah, Ellie's race moose 13th, 2:29.37.
Yeah, so it's not exactly what she wanted, but it wasn't a disaster either, and she had a very hard day out there. So I was proud of her for getting it done, because it would have been really easy just to pull out, and it was real lonely for her out there. So she's in 13th place. Let me just go to the results. She's in 13th place, and there's one girl in front of her, Dom Scott, who she was pulling back at the end. And then there's a girl 4 minutes in front of her. And then there's 5 minutes, 8 minutes, and 9 minutes. So she was on the start line with I think she was like 15 or 16 ladies and then a bunch of pacemakers. So there weren't, it looked like there was a much bigger pack of athletes than there was because of all the paces. And she was... This is not normally like this at London. London is normally filled with qualifier potential athletes who want to go to London and get the time, especially British girls. And you'll often find big packs at the 2:26, 2:28. A lot of them trying to break 2:30. But London, it seems to be changing now. It seems like the fields are all sub 2:20. And then a few of those British girls pull out, and all of a sudden the back pace group is now 2:26. And that, for me, I chatted to Ellie throughout the lead up, and I thought this would have been a great race for her to go out at 2:28 pace and get faster. But the circumstances called for her to go out at 2:26 pace. But the pacers fucked it, and they went that first 5K, she was actually on 2:24 pace. And even, I know it's downhill, but I don't care. You're still going too fast for what it is. So rather than being at 2:28 pace like I wanted, I think that it would have been the perfect spot for her, she's ended up at 2:24 pace for that first 5K. And with her condition, the virus... We try to be pretty positive through the final week, not talk about it too much. But it was still there, and she's still sneezing and coughing. I was talked to her immediately after the race. She just didn't stop coughing the whole time I was talking to her. So they're not excuses, but it's probably just like an explanation as to why I think 2:29 was actually a really strong run for her in the end. And I don't think London's the best place for an athlete of her caliber to go back to anymore. I think she needs to go where there's male pacemakers, or not pacemakers, but when there's tons of males around. So the males at London, they go off only like a minute ahead, I think, of the mass field, and so like they drop back a little bit. They've got bloody 500 people behind them. The ladies drop back a bit. They're on their own. They're just absolutely solo and exposed the whole way. It's just not the same. And I think like ladies trying to get qualifiers, they're probably best served in male races as well, or like mixed races, mixed gender races. So yeah, she had some high spirits at the end. Like she said she was really close to DNFing. So as soon as she said that, I'm like, oh, well done. Get to the end, still run to sub 2:30. You're only 3 minutes off your PB when you're sick and you're in like no man's land, and she'll come back strong at the end of the year, and she'll have a good one, I reckon. This was always just going to be a bit of a stepping stone race. That's how we played it out, and I think we got a little carried away through training. A couple of workouts that she ran too fast, too hard, and we started to shift the goals from like a stepping stone marathon to all of a sudden, let's have a crack at it. And I like again, it's a bit of a trap. It's a bit easy to get sucked into. Yeah.
And coming off World Cross, the success there as well, like that could also be a bad thing. But
yeah, we got
after that.
Yeah, exactly. And it's different. It's really different. Like there was a few workouts where I'm running next to her, thinking this isn't marathon effort. Like I've spent a lot of time next to her training and on a bike, and I know her exertion levels. And this is on me a little bit as a coach, not pulling her back enough, and just letting her go probably too far, and not being forceful enough to say slow down. Like this is outside where I want you in terms of effort, and maybe that's me getting caught up in like the whole hype of how good she went at World Cross. And I mean, I still think the virus that she had for 3 to 4 weeks leading into the race, like that played a massive part in her preparation, like a massive part. She had shit training for a month because she was always sick. And then even on race day, she was sick. So I don't know. I don't want to use. That's not she will hate me saying that as an excuse, but I get to make excuses if she's not. I get to tell the people because it's a legitimate thing.
Going to be fascinating listening. Road to London midweek.
What are your fellas' takes on that?
On what? The sickness?
On her run, you listen to her prep every week. What do you think? I'm interested in your feedback.
Well, it's hard. Like when you hear the numbers and stuff, you're obviously going to think she was going to be quicker than 2:29. But when you hear sickness, when it dragged on, and when I heard that she was on antibiotics, that was a concern. And I think I sent you a message. Was it Friday or Saturday? Just asking how she actually was, because I think that was going to have massive impacts on potentially what was going to happen in the race. But I think she was fit. I think she's fitter than 2:29 off her training.
Yep. Okay, I mean, yeah. I'm just hearing, I'm listening.
Big
so
silence.
I'm interested.
I'm just like, he's not happy with that response.
Nah, I think at the end, the last week or so, it's all about staying positive, and you can't harp on it. Like if you're constantly talking about it, and it's clearly in Ellie's head, but it doesn't help for her to be talking about how bad it is. And she did really well staying positive, and that was a good thing. And I think that's what got her to 2:29. If she'd have spent the last 2 to 3 weeks constantly complaining and worried about it and bitching about it, then I don't think she's finishing that race.
I was worried when I saw the tracker and saw like 1704 for the first 5, but I wasn't so concerned by that. It was more concerned by then the second one being more like 1730. And it's like in the marathon, like you want that confidence of like you shouldn't be slowing down 30 seconds from your first 5K to your second 5K in a marathon. And like I'm not sure whether she even like knew that, like her splits or whatever, but like I knew just looking at the tracker, I'm like, oh, that's not a good sign when, you know, because you see anybody that runs really well over the marathon, and the first like 5, 10, 15, 20K splits should all be within like 5-10 seconds of each other, I reckon. And when you have that big gap, you're like, something's not quite right here.
I agree with you. I was the same. As soon as I saw that, I'm like, yeah, okay, that's like, it's too big of a jump here. And she'll be able to give a good rundown on her little show. But she did tell me last night, she's like, I told him to slow down several times in that first 5K and they didn't. The pacer didn't slow down. And then so they obviously got to the 5K split and were like, oh, fuck, I've cooked this. I'm going to put the brakes on. 2 girls in the pack, and I think there were only 2 or 3 that were in that pack, both told the pacer to slow down, and she didn't. She got it wrong.
Look, the positive is that she has got another marathon under her belt, and the training that she's done in the lead up to this, like although the result wasn't what she wanted, that training's still there, which will, you know, help her, you know, for the next block. And potentially, like she may have pulled up physically, like other than a sickness, because she wasn't running super. Like, how is she body wise? Like cooked, or because she was running a fair bit slower than you expected? Maybe she's not quite as banged up.
Yeah, she said not too bad.
Yeah.
Let's go quick fire results here, Croaks. We might even skip listener question, I reckon. It's going to be a long show.
Yeah, all right. So just we had a few people racing internationally on the track over in the US at the Peyton Jordan Invitational. So Andre Waring ran 13:31 for the 5K, and Leanne Pompiani ran 15:19. So PBs for both of those people and pretty good breakthroughs. Gifu Half over in Japan. Izzy Bat-Doyle was 5th in 70:16. Rose Davies 7th in 70:53. Jen Gregson 8th in 71:57. The race was won in 68:18. And Tiranesh Dababa, who we spoke about before, she was in the field and finished 3rd. New South Wales novice champs were up in Sydney. Luke Hintz won the men's 10K in 31:14. Matt Cox 2nd, 31:25, and Ben St. Lawrence 3rd in 31:35. The actual novice champ was Gavin Eccles in 32:13. And in the women's race, which is 7.5K, Ainsley Minar was 1st in 26:05. Neve Allen was 26:35 for 2nd. And Katie St. Lawrence was 3rd in 27:44. And she was also the novice champ. So
just run me through this again.
Yes, I do this every time.
Yeah.
This time of the year.
So to qualify as a novice, you have to have not won a medal at either a state championship or nationals at a distance over 3 kilometres. So if you've medalled at nationals or state champs in any distance over 3K, you're no longer novice. If you also medal at the novice championships, you're no longer a novice.
Roger.
Yeah. So I won like the novice champs back in like 2005, I think it was. Yeah, because at that point I'd never won a national or state medal. So that's
how many national medals did you win since then?
Got one.
Did you?
Yep.
Marathon.
3K. Wasn't it? Collis, Mottram, Croker.
So it was Mottram, and then it was a Kenyan, and then Collis, and then myself. So I was 3rd Aussie.
Oh,
you got any
default.
And I've told you this story before, because the only reason I ran the 3K was because I didn't qualify for the 1500. I wanted to run the 1500, and the 3K was like, well, it was the Mickey Mouse event, except for guys like Mottram and Collis who had already got qualifiers and whatever. They just wanted to do like a 3K race. And so there was Mottram and Collis and the Kenyan like way out in front. And then there was this like second pack of like, well, they wouldn't even call us sub-elites at the time. It's like battling out for this national bronze medal. I only ran like 824 or something. Yeah,
wow.
There you go. Yep.
Have you got any national medals, Moose?
Nah, you got to go to fucking Sydney Marathon to get them. No one ever wanted to run Sydney Marathon.
I got one at the half there one year, Sydney Marathon, Australian champs.
No shit.
Come third, yep. Yeah, I got a national medal. Oh, it would have been slow, like 67, 68. Hilly course, though, probably worth 64. I reckon Brad Milosevic won it. Dave Thomas second, I reckon.
There's some cheap Aussie medals getting around by the sounds of it.
Croaks and I have got one each. Jells Park Relays, feel like I've spoken about this a million times tonight, but we'll quickly go through the results. Glenn Huntley got the win in 1 hour, 49 minutes, 37 seconds. So this is 6x6K. Western Athletics were 1 hour, 49 minutes and 43 seconds. I swear it was closer than that. It looked closer at the finish. It was an epic finish between Ed Marks and Cody Shanahan, who both ran first and second fastest times of the day, 17:25 and 17:36. Bendigo Bats are like 4 minutes back in third, 1 hour 53 and 19 seconds. Ben Buckingham was the third fastest time of the day with a 17:51. To put that into perspective, it is about, I think, 5 seconds quicker than what Stewie and Jack ran last year. Yeah, Stewie was 17:30 and Jack was 17:40. Close to 300 teams there. So good to see so many people around. Glenn Huntley also won the women's in 1 hour 50:41 seconds. St. Stephen's were second, 1 hour 51:03, and Box Hill third, 1 hour 52:28. Lyndon Hall, fastest of the day in the women's, 19:42. Abby Caldwell, 20:11. And Madeline Murray, 20:28. So some big names getting around Jells Park down there in Wheelers Hill. Heaps of people. And good to see XCR is back. Moose on the loose.
Yeah. Oh well. I mean, they don't look after us. They don't share any of our stuff like they do other podcasts. But it's good that AV had live tracking. People love live tracking. Like, there was heaps of people waiting at home just following the results, and we had the results going in the tent. They do it really well now, I reckon.
They do. It's a very good product. I know they don't like us and stuff like that, but it's a very good product, and there's a lot of people down there getting the job done. So it's good. It's a lot of listeners down there as well. I feel like there's just a lot of like die-hard runners that support these events, and it's a really good product. The 10 race series, the points, the team stuff. I think people go to another level when they got their club singlet on. I love it. Loved having it back. Croaks, you have been checking the live results, wouldn't you? See what Moose and I ran?
I did have it up at one point, actually, to see what was going on.
Yeah.
Jeez, big Saturdays for Croaks. Moose on the list. Yeah, I got a couple of quick ones first. So I'll just slide one out. It was about London Marathon results page, right? You have to do your own math to get the 5K split. Do you guys see that? So if you go into the results, it just gives you like elapsed time. It doesn't actually give you what the split was. And it's really difficult to work out what like 1704 into 3450 or something actually is. I always, and especially when it changes numbers from like 1704, like say it's like 1735 to 36 something. I'm like, how the fuck am I supposed to work that out? It's not like
maths. It's called maths, Moose.
I tried to pull my calculator out, and I'm like, 1730 take 6. Oh no, that doesn't work. Yeah, couldn't do it. Yeah. So yeah, that was one of them. The other one was Flow Track. I think I pay $150 a year for that subscription, and then they fucking lose the stream on the race. So that was painful as well. So I only watched like 3 races on it a year, and then I'd lose that. But the main one is cross country. Getting treated by runners as if it's like some kind of second-rate team sport. So when you've got an individual who goes, "Oh, I got my mum's cousin's birthday this weekend, I can't run." And in my head, coming from a football background, I hear that and I think, I would never have been able to get away with that in footy. If I said that to the coach, he would have said, "You're fucking playing. I don't give a shit." Like that's not an excuse. You can't just pull that and not play for the team. You've got 17 blokes relying on you out on that field, and you're going to tell them you've gone to your mum's cousin's birthday? And we cop that every week at running, and I know other clubs cop it too. And so why isn't there a culture that you show up and run throughout the season for your club? Brady, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I like it, Moose. We've kind of tried to get the people to commit for 7 of the 10. Like, that would be a good showing. But you're right. I did
footy clubs.
Hey, I did all 10 last year. You're talking to a guy who did all 10, but he hated me for a few weeks. Like, yeah. It's it's not there yet though, that culture. It's getting there though.
Moose, why didn't you bring this up when we were speaking to Andy? Hey boys, I've got to go over to Hamburg and run a marathon. Sorry, Bats.
I mean, carry him on the weekend. Skeleton team, the Benny Bats still come third.
I'll throw something else out there though, Moose. So when you play footy, like the whole like you as an athlete are basically judged on, and your goals align with the team. Whereas the tough thing with the cross-country season is it's so long, and there's often other big races. And Brady probably struggled with this a little bit last year, was he committed to the Bats cross-country season, but it then probably impacted some of his other personal races, which you don't have when you're in a footy team, because your personal races are your team races, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I do.
I reckon I pulled it off last year, but it actually impacted my personal life. Not so much like the Gold Coast and the Launcestons, but my social life and stuff.
Yeah, but there's like 10 rounds, and footy there's 18 rounds normally, local footy. So you've got half a season basically. You're only playing every second or third week, and you're still running. Like, cross-country running is good for you.
Yeah.
And most of the time, like, showing up and getting it done is you don't have to go out and absolutely smoke yourself every week. Like, you can go, if someone's like, you can do, and say you're doing Gold Coast Marathon, you're going to go to Albert Park. That's a race that's good for you. Mm. Or then you go to Bendigo and be like, yeah, I can't smoke myself today. I've got like a marathon workout, so I'm going to get around for the boys or the ladies if you're on the ladies team.
But if you bring that back to the footy example, and you say to your coach, I'm just going to take it easy today on the field. How's that go down with the coach?
Chuck us in the pocket. I got a dodgy little ankle. I'm playing rep footy tomorrow. Yeah. Look, I've got picked for the interleague team. I'm playing. I can't be going busting my ass winning by 100 points like we used to do at Geelong.
Because I know with like New South Wales, for example, and like New South Wales doesn't have the team concept that you guys have down in Victoria, but often the Nowra cross-country race, which was like pretty tough, was always like the week before Gold Coast. And it's like, that's not a great event to have the week before Gold Coast. Like this really, really tough cross-country, like even just doing it as a tempo. But like, it's not really relevant because New South Wales doesn't really have that team atmosphere. But I guess my point was, the season runs so long, and if you commit to the full cross-country season, you probably have to sacrifice some of your own personal goals in bigger races.
Yes and no. I still think you can pull off a good marathon build off cross-country. Mm. I still think you can. You've just got to be a little more flexible with it.
Andy Buchanan, that's what he does. Anyway, fellas, let's wrap it up. It's been a long one. Hoping this audio file is saved and we get it actually in the bag. What's coming up for you boys? We've got the Road to London finale coming up. New series after that in the works. Just got to lock down a few names. Ed Goddard interviews coming up as well. The 62-minute man, 2:13. What do you think about Ed when you were jogging listening to that, Croaks?
Yeah, it's good. He's he likes to chat. He's got some good views. So I enjoyed the interview.
It's good to get to know him. I feel like you see a lot of him, but you don't really know him.
Mm. You ask him about his half marathon tready thresholds?
Not sure.
Spoke about it a little bit.
I'll have to. My app's been playing up. I've got to listen. All these things have just popped up today. Things I've been missing.
You said that last week, actually, off air.
Yeah, it's no good.
All right, boys, what are you doing between now and next week, Croaks?
Training, going back to work, trying to tee up an interview with a big name, I suppose.
Don't say the name, though. Don't give it away yet. tease it out a bit. Very big name. Maybe the biggest. Moose, what are you doing?
No, not the biggest.
Could be.
I've actually got some massive announcements this week, so just keep your eye on socials. The running company Geelong also on the personal stuff. You might see some things pop up.
Oh, I know this. I reckon we spoke about it in the monthly. New employee. The bad boy from Ballarat's moving to town, isn't he?
How much did you talk about, actually? Is it announced yet?
Haven't you listened to the monthly yet? He said he's moving to Anglesey.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Christian wasn't happy with it.
What else did you talk about?
You'll have to listen to it.
All right, cool. I'll have to have a listen.
All right. See you, boys. Do it all again next week.
Have a good week.
Doesn't matter if it don't come back. Undercover of my skin, I've heard all your names. If it's all the same, I'll keep on walking. Undercover of my skin.
This week's guest on the Inside Running podcast is one of the most fascinating people, I think anyway, in Australian distance running. He has a half marathon PB of 62 minutes and a marathon PB of 2:13. We've spoken about him a lot over the years, I feel, and a massive welcome goes to Ed Goddard. Thanks for joining the Inside Running podcast this week.
Thanks for having me. I'm a long-time listener, so it's good to hit the show finally.
It's good. Yeah, it's one of those ones. I was thinking sometimes people get a bit I wouldn't say insulted, but we've had a couple of people who have come on, say, after episode 200 and been like, why is it taking me like 200 episodes to finally get an interview? But then I often remind them, like, we still haven't had on Craig Mottram, Rob De Castella. There was some other significant like Australian record holder I was thinking the other day. Ryan Gregson, for example. Like, you got to spread out some of the big names in the sport and just kind of keep it sustainable that way. So I do feel like we've spoken about you a few times over the years, though. So the listeners should be familiar with who you are.
That's good.
Hey, what's your Tuesday looked like so far? Always, we're recording this at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday afternoon. What's training been this morning, and what's life looked like?
Tuesday's been chilled. So I mean, I guess kind of this week in particular is a little bit of a down week. Since World Cross, I've just put my head down and had sort of 8-9 weeks of hard training, sort of 3 workouts a week, about 190k a week, and so I sort of just wanted to commit to that for 2 months, and then just have an easy sort of reset week, just with a bit more jogging. And I guess anyone who knows a lot about me or follows me on Strava knows that I am impartial to a treadmill jog. And so that was my morning. I jogged just under 20k on the treadmill, and I watched a movie, which I am a big fan of as well.
What was the movie?
I actually watched the OG South Park film.
Oh, yeah. South Park is back cool. Like, I'm a school teacher and I teach like 9 and 10-year-olds, and they're like quoting Cartman and stuff in my classroom, and I'm like, this is not okay. And I feel like 20 years ago, 15 years ago, that's exactly what was happening in schools as well.
Yeah, no, it's good. I mean, they're very in touch. I watch because I do run on the treadmill, and also like you do get a lot of downtime running, and so I do watch a lot of TV, a lot of movies, and I'm a big cartoons guy, and I like seeing a show like that. Like, still put a lot of effort into what they're producing and stuff, which is cool.
So you got that like on an iPad, like on the dash of the treadmill, or like on a big TV in front of you?
Just my phone, and just on the dash, and which has been good. Like, it was funny, like a few years ago, before my first ever big injury, I did a lot of stuff during the day, and I liked sort of doing things during the day, not really sitting down and sort of watching films. But when I broke my foot and I got back on the Ultra G, and I'd spent a lot of time cycling on the bike and on the elliptical and stuff, like I really got into watching a lot of movies and stuff. And so I watched all the Marvel films and watched like all the Simpsons again, watched all the Futurama, like South Park, Family Guy. And so now I'm I wouldn't say cultured, but very up to date with late 20th century cartoons.
Well, I guess when you add up all the hours that we do spend exercising, it's it's a good amount of time to consume stuff, I suppose. But tell me about the pace. Like, do you just switch off and go super slow when you're on the treadmill watching that stuff, or like do you kind of just tune out and just let the legs tick over, or you kind of work it down?
Very tuned out.
Yeah,
very tuned out. Like if I'm doing anything that sort of involves a little bit of effort, I'll just put music on or watch music videos, because I find like you can sort of tune in and out of that stuff. And so like one of my staple workouts I do like an hour threshold, and I'll do, I mean, most weeks I'll do it on the treadmill. Like sometimes I'll like do 80% on the treadmill and then sort of jump outside for the last like 5K or something, or just to pick the pace up. But I do like the sort of like monotony of just rolling along and spending a lot of time in your own head, because I think it's a good skill to develop as a runner.
Yeah, we will get to your PBs. We often list those off at the start of the interviews, but just on the World Cross, how did you pull up from that? Like, you did the golden ticket race the day before, so a big 24 hours, and then must have been a weird kind of experience contrasting the Friday to the Saturday.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was so hot as well. It felt like a bit of a fever dream that whole weekend. It was but it was good. I guess in hindsight, like after the race, I realized I was sort of running on fumes. Like last year, I had a sort of big year of racing, sort of first year back after COVID. Like, I mean, there's a lot of stuff on, and I guess first like pro season, especially coming out of the college system where you're used to racing regularly. I sort of wanted to sort of emulate that a bit and just get back on the horse. But I mean, I definitely over raced and didn't structure my year that well. And I think by the time I took December pretty chill and January sort of built back up, I think World Cross, I was running on what was left of last year's fitness, which is sort of why that led me to the decision just to sort of put my head down and get back to training this year since then. So yeah, World Cross was tough because like I wasn't at all where I'd like to be. But I mean, it was a good reminder to do some more hills and stuff like that in training.
Yeah, and the kind of, what was it like for those golden ticket winners as well? Because we kind of, I guess you talk to the guys on the Australian team and you hear their kind of response to the call room and the whole hype about being in a world championships. Like, you guys were kind of like there but not there in a way, like they didn't show you guys in the results, and it was a different concept. I think some people loved it early days and then hated it by the time it rolled around, and other people hated it and then they loved it, but you were actually the person living it. Like, what was the vibe like of were people giving you kind of like the side eyes, like on the start line, like, what are you doing here? And then tell me what it was like.
I mean, honestly, like, so the week leading up to it, it was like you get a lot of people be like, oh, like, what are you up to next weekend? Or like, have you got a lot of stuff on like coming up? And you'd be like, well, like, I might be running at World Champs, but I might not be. You know what I mean? Like, it was sort of, because it's such a big thing. Like, it's a World Championship event, but because you only sort of trial the day before, like, you can't really like tell people, oh, like, I'm going to be running at World Champs this weekend. Like, make sure you tune in or something like that, because you are qualified. And so it was kind of funny because like that whole week running, you're like, well, I guess I should tape it because I might be running like the biggest race of my life on Saturday, but as well, like, you know, you're not qualified for anything, it was sort of funny leading in, which was nice as well. But I guess the golden ticket was fine. It was pretty low key, I guess, early on Friday morning. But it was funny because I guess by the time Saturday Arvo rolled around and we started to warm up, and then they made the announcement that the race was getting moved like 30 minutes forwards. And so you didn't really have a lot of time to actually A, warm up, or B, think about it. And I think everyone was kind of in the same boat. Like, call room was really rushed. They sort of rushed us on the start line, sort of like set us off, and And then I guess as soon as it finished, like the thunderstorm was on, and they sort of dragged everyone off the course, and everyone dispersed. And I was like, did that really happen? Like, I'm pretty exhausted, but everyone's like, yeah, you know what I mean? It was
weird. It was strange.
Everyone just left.
Yeah, everyone's like sprinting back to their cars as the rain's pelting down, and there's like getting text messages to like evacuate the area, and like it was really, really odd, and I can't imagine what it was like out there. And I think probably the credibility of those people that showed up to the golden ticket race and qualified, probably like we were joking around the week before that if Moose or I, because we were both going to run, got top 6 or 8, would we actually accept it? And we were like, would feel like we're kind of like, not welcome, but haven't earned that spot to be on the world champs, because we're guys, well, Moose has, represented Australia, but I kind of see myself as a long way from that. Whereas I think because it was guys like you and Benny Sane and Tom DeCano, it's like these are guys that do make teams. It was good to see.
I mean, I guess as well, and I think Moose is a bit like this. I think running's a little bit like it's easy to like overthink it. You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, like it's an opportunity, and no one really cares. No one's going to stand on the start line and be like, "Oh, that guy, that guy wouldn't usually be here." Like I'm pretty pissed off. Like no one really thinks like that or cares. You know what I mean? I think I definitely like a few years ago, like used to overthink running a lot, but now it's like, you know what I mean? It's one of those things that like everyone does. Everyone trains hard. Everyone works for these opportunities, and I think if you get them and you got like, there's no point in like, there's no point in overthinking it or. And
when's that opportunity going to come up for you again?
Exactly.
At home, Bathurst, not far from home.
Yeah.
World cross country, yeah.
Sure.
Let's go through your PBs then. There's a bit of a trend here, 1500. Well, there's an obvious trend, I feel, when I looked at your PBs this morning.
Yeah.
And these could be wrong, but this is what's on your World Athletes profile.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you could go a lot quicker than some of these shorter distance times. 1500, 356?
Yeah.
Is that it?
Yeah, national. I think it was first. I think I just finished school.
Okay.
And I ran the nationals. And I ran 356 in the heat, which put me pretty close to the back. It was the nationals where Jordan Guzman before the final shaved his head and fell over with a lap to go, and Gregson I think won. If you remember that nationals.
Was this open nationals or June?
Yeah, open nationals in
Sydney.
In Sydney.
Yeah.
And so, that's my 15.
Was that the year? Did the year before the Sydney boys? It was like Jeremy Roth and there was that other Sydney.
Josh Wright.
Josh Wright, that's right. Yeah, he was shaved head as well, kind of a bigger build as well. They kind of upset, I guess, that kind of Melbourne track club. I reckon they came over like Gregson and James Curran, wasn't it as well? Like, yeah.
He was definitely up there. I know. I think Josh Wright got DQ'd one of those years as well. A bit of not staying in his lane.
Yeah, that's right. So that's the 1500. A while ago, you'd rewrite that easy if you put together one now, wouldn't you?
I'd hope so.
Yeah. The 3K, 813.
Yeah.
You were a junior then too.
So same year. I mean, that was, I guess, my big breakthrough race. It was like a 17-second PB.
Yep.
And it was my first state open medal.
Yep.
So I was happy with that, but yeah, those shorter stuff, I mean, I definitely neglected. And I always thought it'd be something like you just come back to and you'd end up running a 15 or a 3K. And I guess I thought when I went to college in America, I'd get a chance to sort of run a bit faster, but with COVID and everything, just haven't got around to it.
Yeah, and then the 5K, I guess, is similar, like 14:07.
Yeah. So that was Hunter Track Classic in 2018.
Yep.
Which, I mean, it was good to like junior fielders like Facchioni. I mean, Brad Milosevic was in it. We had Jared Clifford, Sean Guinea paced.
Oh yeah.
A bit of a throwback.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, same kind of thing. Like, I think I'd definitely go a lot faster. Like I've time trialed fast. Like I've run faster splits in different races, but yeah, I mean, and it's funny as well because I have run. I mean, I run indoor 5K a little bit faster, but yeah, it's something like I think. I mean, I haven't like got around to sort of entering a big race where I run fast, but at the same time, like I know I've neglected that kind of that training as well.
Yeah, and I guess maybe not so much the 1500, but opportunities to actually run a fast 3 or 5K. Like you might have one, say, in New South Wales at the state champs, and then 5Ks are hard to find as well on the track during our summer.
Yeah, I mean, I guess most guys like, I mean, especially post 2020, like over at college in America, like there's been a lot of super quick 5s where guys have run like 13:30s, 13:20s. But yeah, I mean, it's something like I've been putting a lot of work in that sort of speed like endurance zone in training and stuff, and so I think I'd be in pretty good shape. Like if I ran one now, and I guess Sydney 10K being my best race. I mean, my next race. Like if I run well there, maybe I find a road 5 or something as well. And I guess with world road running this year over in Latvia, like yeah, the road 5K is maybe going to get a bit more exposure.
Yeah, we're seeing a bit more of that, aren't we? And even like, I think it was, I know, ASICS, who you're sponsored by, did the kind of like the weekend of events kind of thing and pull all the athletes together. We've seen Adidas do it previously as well, where they have a crack at the world records on the road for 5K and 10K and that kind of stuff. So yeah, potentially we see more of that. So then the second, like the longer stuff, this is where it gets pretty impressive. 28:33 for Zatopek, 2021. Podium that day? Third? Fourth?
So fourth. So I think I was, I think, did Brett or Rainer win? The other one was maybe like 28:19. Dave McNeil was 28:19, and then I was 28:23, so I was just behind them.
Yeah, Inglewood Company.
That was a good day, yeah.
Yeah, and then the half marathon, I think you're with Brett and maybe Tom DeCano that day as well, down at Launceston.
Yeah.
2020, 62:16.
Yeah.
Do you reckon that's your best PB across the board?
I mean, I'd probably say so. Yeah, it's funny, like with all the road PBs, like, I mean, I ran all those ones like within sort of 2-3 months of each other. So I was on a bit of a hot streak then, pre-injury, but I think I was also a bit like Icarus, flying a little bit close to the sun with training hard and not enough time looking after the body.
You were pretty aggressive that day too, yeah? Like you did a lot of the leading?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And then the marathon. So, well, you've also, just on the half, you've also ran 3:63s all last year. So you've kind of got a few around that similar mark there. Sure. The marathon, 2:13:36, California International Marathon. Does have an asterisk on it though, because it's net downhill.
Okay. Yeah.
Similar to what they do for Boston. But you've also run you've run Manchester 2:13:45 and then Copenhagen 2:14 high, and then the Melbourne Marathon debut. So I don't think it's an outline, a downhill marathon that you shouldn't have there. I think it probably stacks up pretty well to what you've done.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely the race I felt best on those long sort of road races. But I mean, I rolled my ankle pretty badly at about 30 Ks, maybe 27, 30 Ks.
You hit a cone, didn't you? Like a traffic cone?
Yeah, stood on a traffic cone because I mean it'd been raining really heavily, and you know when like it rains really heavily, like you get all the like leaves and sticks and stuff roll into sort of the middle of the road, and because there was a lot of that stuff on the road, I was sort of over on one side going around a corner and just went over on my ankle, which was funny. I was working with a US guy called Jacob Thompson, and we were doing basically all the leading, just alternating because there was no pacer. And he, about 30 seconds before I rolled my ankle, he went off to the side of the road to go to the bathroom. And I think it was just like that lapse of concentration, being like, oh, like where's he? Like what's happening? Or like I'll go back on the front and just went straight over, which was annoying because like if like running with an injury, like you just I mean, like 3-minute Ks feels like 250s when you're running in that sort of pain.
How far in was it that you hit the cone?
About 27 to 30K.
Okay, yeah.
And then last 4Ks was when people started making moves and I got flushed out the back door. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you make a good point about, because I just spoke about Launceston half, like you're doing a bit of leading that day. I'm pretty sure Gold Coast, was it last year or the year before? Like I've seen you at that, on that front pack leading it, the same kind of thing. Like, is it you don't have the patience to sit in, or you feel more comfortable on the front? But I'd feel like Melbourne Marathon on your debut, I remember, you're doing the pacing, and Brett and Tom are the experienced guys sitting behind you, kind of letting you do the work. Like, do you feel like it's a, tell me about it, because I feel like their eyes must light up when they see you in a long distance race and think, okay, we've got Ed to take us through.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone loves leading, but I think it's one of those things. If you're impartial to, then you end up on the front a lot, because most people hate leading. And so if you don't mind it, like that's good enough for them, kind of thing. And I guess because I'm young and a lot of those guys are a little bit older and they've run those fast times, they're not really chasing times as much. And whereas maybe if it slows down, like I'd want to sort of keep the ball rolling a little bit more. But yeah, it's just one of those things. I think just all those things considered, you just end up there a bit. But I mean, the only benefit of leading is that you sort of, you know what you're going to get, like you know what to expect as well, which is nice too. Like if you want to run a certain time through halfway, you can sort of make sure it happens. Yeah.
Let's talk about your marathoning career, because you're only 24 and you've ran 4, maybe 5 with the DNF at London.
Yeah, 4 with the DNF as well.
Yeah. Well, there was 4 just last year alone, so it's good to see you've stepped into the event early. Were there conversations planned a couple of years ago that you would jump into it at a younger age than what we've kind of used to seeing?
I mean, definitely. Like, so 2018, after I ran my first good run on the road was Gold Coast 2018, and around 64:06. And that was in one of those pair of Adidas sub 2s, if you remember them.
Yeah, I do. Yep.
But
the super shoes would have been out then, wouldn't they?
They were, but I was a bit skeptical.
Wilson Kipsang, I reckon, the sub 2, wouldn't he? Like he would have made that famous.
Yeah.
Dennis Cometto.
Yeah, I mean Adidas did that. Did this sub 2 project as well, which sort of fell over. But I guess a lot of those guys have been done for doping now, which is funny. But yeah, so they were out, but I was a little bit skeptical how shoes went from, like, you had your racing shoes, which only sort of the top guys who are highly tuned and like used to training in thin, fast shoes could wear, and then all of a sudden the ratio of choice for everyone was something that 99% of runners can race in. I was a bit like, surely that's like the best marketing scheme in the world. And so I was a bit skeptical, and I mean I still sort of am as well. Like I just can't believe that it's been that easy for all shoe companies to make sort of the best shoes in the world that everyone can wear. Like it's sort of changed the whole sport in 4 years, which is pretty crazy.
I was talking to someone about this on Sunday Long Run, and you're right. We were talking about, like, back pre-super shoes, if you go to a fun run, so go to a Gold Coast Marathon Festival, and it's only the top, 20, 50 guys and girls in each race that have racing flats on.
Yeah.
Whereas you go now, the super shoes are the whole way through the field.
Exactly.
Like you would never go down to your local park run and see someone in a pair of Asics Piranhas or a Luna Racer or something like that. But I go down to my local park run every week and there's 30 people in Next Percents or Alpha Flies or whatever X name the super shoe that's out there. So it's definitely gone through. They've marketed it brilliantly.
They have, and it's funny because as well, like you think back to running pre the Breaking 2 project, and you think like Mo Farah and Galen Rupp, and like all these guys, like Gebre Meskel, like all these guys, they were running track 10Ks. That was the long distance thing. Like, and you're running in. I mean, most of those guys are still running the Nike Zoom Victories that came out in like 2008.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because I know even from that ASICS thing you mentioned last year, that event in Spain, and talking to their marketing guys, and I mean, those guys are really saying like, we really care most about road marathon racing now, because that's sort of the direction running's gone in, which is crazy because basically like Kipchoge and that whole Breaking 2 thing has like completely shifted the focus of running from track to road. And like you look at like 5K and 10K now, like it's pretty, like there's nowhere near as much hype as there used to be for like the Olympic 10K and stuff. Like I guess you got like the Ugandan guys, and you got Grant Fisher and a few other Americans. But I think it's crazy because the focus really is all the road stuff now. Yeah.
Do you think that's just because it's not relatable as much as well? Like you can't go on the track and actually experience what these guys are closing in 55, and it probably doesn't look any different than a 65, a 70, and then the general person probably can't relate to that as well.
Yeah.
Whereas on the roads, they kind of know what a K-split kind of feels like, I guess, at a different pace.
For sure. And I mean, I think it's definitely more relatable, and I think as well, just the shoe companies have put so much like marketing push into all the road stuff. And I guess you even look at like teams like NN Running, like obviously like Cheptegei, Kiplimo, like they do run the track, but like 99% of the times you see an NN singlet, it's at the front of a major marathon. And same with like these guys who go by like whichever super shoe, like they see all those in road races, or they see that in a big city half or a road 10K. Whereas like just tracks, it's just, I think like the 10K and the 5Ks on the tracks sort of been a little bit left behind in the last few years, just with what athletics is focused on.
Yeah. What do you think about, we're getting down rabbit holes here, and I've still got a list of questions, but we'll get to the list of questions. Only because I just finished watching Boston and the currency of winning those major races. So we saw Helena Beery in the on super shoe, and we saw Chibet and his training partner, whose name escapes me off the top of my head, three Adidas athletes, first, second, and third. And I'm like, Kipchoge back in 6th or 7th. I'm like, what a Nike thinking about that? On must be absolutely stoked. And now Adidas, the top shoe. Like, how much do you think? Because to be honest, I rarely see an Adidas super shoe. Maybe it's just because of their impact and influence in Australia, but I rarely see one at my local park run. I don't know any sub-elite guys or elite guys in Australia that put one on. So is that a currency there for those athletes and those brands, or Nike? And we've seen everyone trying to catch up. And I know you're an ASICS athlete, so you've got different intel as well about what's coming. But what do you think the currency of that's worth, winning those major races, and how it filters down?
I mean, I think it's huge because, I mean, even if you look at Medka Flesky, who won Boston in 2014? And I think the stock market of Skechers went up by 20% or something in the months after his win there. So I think it is huge, and you do see like, I mean, like even if you just look through Instagram and see like all the different like events which like ASICS and Adidas and Nike are hosting on these marathon weekends, trying to get people to buy shoes. I think that is pretty huge.
So we should buy a bit of on stock, start trading over in the US. Maybe late tonight. Let's go back to Ed the marathoner though, because I do want to get Ed the ideas man and how the sport works and things like that. But the Melbourne debut, you did a lot of the leading. We spoke about it. Was a December marathon, probably one of the big marathons that actually happened that year.
Yeah.
Weather was perfect though. I was about 10 minutes, or not 10 minutes, 8 minutes behind you on the road that day, and it was a beautiful day to be running the marathon.
Yeah.
You had some issues, I think, in the last couple of Ks and your drinks,
Yeah.
and like maybe that first marathon, learning a lot of
Yeah.
stuff that day.
Well, I don't know if you remember, but it was the marathon where the organizer said you could have someone with you on a bike, if you remember.
Well, the top guys, yeah. Well, this is
You could have someone
yeah,
like cycle along and get off the bike and hand you
Yeah.
bottles.
yeah,
Or you could hand your bottles in and have them at the drink stations.
yeah.
And all the other guys at the top had someone on a bike, whereas I handed mine in, but they didn't actually put them out on the tables.
Yes, people have stitched you up there, not telling you that Melbourne's
Yeah.
very unreliable. We've actually putting those drinks out, so that's why everyone brings their own mate on
Yeah,
a bike to just hand them to you. Yeah,
Yeah. And so it was one of those things. Like, I mean, even for example, I ran past my dad at like 25 Ks and I shouted to him like, "Oh, I don't have any drinks." Like, and so he rang Annabelle, who was at like 35 Ks, and she went back to the hotel and got a gel, and then went down and stood on the road at like 35 Ks. But like the fact you're trying to communicate all that when you're running a marathon is pretty hectic. But it was a good day. I mean, I really had a lot of fun, and I did do a lot of leading. And I guess being my first marathon, I didn't really understand the whole like sitting in, conserving energy, because I tried to throw a lot of surges in from about halfway onwards. And even when we got up to the top of the Shrine of Remembrance, when Tom Buchanan sort of slipped off Brett and I was like, I said to Brett, like, I think we're in for a good like payday here. We're having a bit of jokes, but by the time we got down the bottom of the hill, my quads were so trash I could hardly put one leg in front of the other.
it happens quick in the marathon, doesn't it? And you never experience that in other races. Like
No,
you
not at
can't.
all.
You feel the lactic in the shorter stuff, and you get tired and things like that, but not that quick. Like, bam, okay, I'm actually going into survival mode now. I'm going to find the finish line.
Yeah, literally.
So then you went to Manchester. I remember you had the war paint on the under the eyes, and you were aggressive there too. Like and the two, well, I've got it written in front of me here, 2:13:45. So a bit of a significant improvement, but still not where your probably potential's at, and still not quick enough to like make a team yet.
Yeah, and so Manchester was, it was an awesome race. Like I'd 100% do it again if it was the same setup, because it was the British team trials, and so we had a pace of the 25 Ks. We went through halfway in 66, but it was one of those things when the pacemaker stopped. We all sort of just spread, literally like 5 in a row across, and looking at each other, and some of the British guys like shouting at each other like someone's got to lead it, and so like when we got to 30K, I put on a big surge, and I thought like, I think it was very optimistic and like lack of experience, but I sort of went up the road by myself, thinking that like I'll get the ball rolling and like, I don't know, maybe we'll pick it up as a group, but no one came with me, and then I sort of had to wait for them to come back to me, because I was like, there's no way I'm going to run 12Ks solo to the finish with this big group behind. And then Johnny Mellor put a big surge in. I sort of went with him, and I guess being young and inexperienced, sort of every move I tried to be the one to react to it immediately. And even coming into like the last sort of 8Ks, like some of the guys were like, they all ran 2:11, 2:10, and they were like, all we need to do is run 5-minute miles to run 2:11. And I was like, oh sweet, like I might not win, but it's going to be a good day. And same thing as Melbourne, like I just cramped up really badly with the last 4Ks, and then time slips away pretty fast.
Yeah, you just bleed it, don't you, when that happens?
Yeah, but I mean, my lead-in wasn't great for that, because I had COVID I had COVID 2 weeks before, and I was over in Europe already, and then I flew back to Australia, and then I flew back over for Manchester, because I wasn't planning on doing the marathon. I was going to do Paris, so I pulled out of that, and then ASICS were like, oh, we're going to fly you to this event. It's over in Europe, and it was 2 weeks after that. And so I was like, well, if I'm going to go to Europe, I might as well do a marathon. Like, and so I did, which was, I mean, it was what it was.
I hope you take this in the right way, but it seems like the organisation and the lack of knowledge about Melbourne drinks and like the timing of like getting into these major, like, marathons are hard and like you need to be organised and stuff with them. Do you think that's played a part? Or obviously it has, looking at your times.
I mean,
in your preparation. Like you see some guys, their races are locked in 20 weeks before. They're well, it's not that you don't live that kind of, you know, full-time athlete life, because you do with your training, but it's the organisation to get into the races that potentially can impact it.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, 100%, and I mean that was my biggest learning last year, and like it's funny because like you look back on things and you're like, oh, that's so dumb. Like, why did I do that? And I guess like in the heat of the moment, like maybe it was more justifiable, but just like explaining it sounds stupid, and if you explain something that sounds stupid, like it probably is not a very wise decision.
Well, I only make the point because it brings into it something different for the listeners and people like me who are like, you got to enter a race 12 months before and you get the good for age time, or you get your name in a ballot or whatever it is. Yeah. Like for people at your level, you're not a 207 guy who can, you know, get into these races as the top of the list on the elite field, and it kind of would take some work behind the scenes, I'm sure, to trying to get into London and get elite starts in some of these marathons. And can you kind of explain how that works for you? I think we often hear the Nick Beddoe story for the Melbourne Track Club guys, but how are you getting into these races?
Well, I mean, first thing as well with last year as well, which added to that kind of lack of preparation time, was I had like a bit of a heart reaction to the COVID vaccine, and it was one of those things where like I got Melbourne out of the way and that felt pretty good, and then I had a bit of a relapse in December, January, and I missed Zatopek, and then like in sort of February got into good training, and with Commonwealth Games I was looking to do that marathon as well, it was one of those things like when I started to, like, my heart rate got back to normal and sort of that kind of thing. That's sort of why I did leave it a bit late for Paris Marathon, and then obviously getting COVID, and it was very it was very like quick decisions, like not well thought out decisions, but quick decisions with the focus of trying to make the team last year as well. So like that was
because we didn't send anyone to the World Champs, and there was a spot on the men's Commonwealth Games team as well, because it was just Andy and Liam. If you could have got it would have been a good opportunity.
Yeah, and so that was the thing. Like I know like I've been in shape to run faster than I have, like 100%. But it doesn't matter until you do it. But yeah, so that's a bit of a side note. But yeah, with getting into races, and sort of planning all that stuff out as well. Like, I mean, it's hard. Like obviously, like the faster you have run, like the more sort of appearance fee you can demand, and the sort of earlier you can get locked into races for sure. And I think, I mean, I haven't had as much experience at it, but a lot of the older guys I've spoken to have said like it's changed a lot post-COVID, because there's a lot more demand for these road events. And I think that probably comes back to what we're saying about sort of super shoes and the sort of emphasis of road racing. But yeah, so I mean, it maybe is a little bit harder than it used to be, but still like Wayne Larden's sort of helped me out in the past getting into races, and I've got an agent in America who's good, and I probably don't give them as much credit as I should, but it does like take a lot of just like it takes a lot of worry out of the head and helps you to plan things through. But not that I'm a big New Year's resolution guy, but like I locked in Gold Coast pretty early this year, sort of with Gavin, sort of periodised the year pretty well. And so I'm hoping new year, new me.
That's exciting. 10 weeks this Sunday.
Yeah.
So it's going to come around quick. An ASICS event as well, so it'd be good to see an ASICS boy on the start line. Do you know who else Australian potentially racing?
I mean, I can imagine Liam will do it.
Yep.
Because he's a big Gold Coast guy. I think, Tom DeCanto, I don't think is racing Hamburg. And so I think Gold Coast would probably make sense for him. And I mean, even Andy and Brett, like if they race this weekend, there's still sort of 8-9 weeks to back up, which isn't too undoable. And so it could be a good field. But it's one of those things, like I'm just going to get in as good shape as I can, and sort of go through the full marathon build, and sort of hopefully come race day I'm sort of able to go with whatever I need to go with. But I think I'll do it with a more methodical race plan than I have in the past.
Yeah, and I guess Gold Coast can be interesting for guys like you as well, because they do bring in the Japanese and the Kenyan and the Ethiopians, and it can almost be a bit too fast, which leaves your pack quite small if you're looking around that 2:10 to 11 kind of time.
Yeah, I mean that is the other thing with road racing, which I have experienced, is because you sort of go to these races and they offer the prize money, but then they offer like all in lights, like this time, which if you run, you get like this money. And so like you go to sort of every race and they're always trying to run very fast times, whether like in Copenhagen last year, like it was super windy, it was hot as well, and like I sort of went out with the pace group and we were running like low threes through 8K, and then all of a sudden next 2Ks were like 257, 255, and then the front group ran like close to 250, just trying to like drop everyone to get the ball rolling, which is crazy, because like I guess as an Australian guy who sort of whatever, like you're going after the time, whereas these guys are all trying to sort of beat each other to get that money, which probably changes their life in like in a big way. Yeah,
you spoke about Gav Burren. I'm not sure if we brought him up, but he's the coach of Abby Caldwell down here in Victoria. Steve Moneghetti, is also playing a bit of a role in your coaching.
Yeah, and he's been great, and I think, I mean, the biggest sort of takeaway from him is just the sort of simplifying of things, and so working into just to get this training program, which I've been able to sort of replicate and sort of get the body used to just doing it week in, week out, and the other thing is like during the day, instead of trying to like look for things to recover or overcomplicating things, just chill, just spend time on the couch, like instead of maybe driving like half an hour to ice bath and do Normatec boots, you're probably better off just sitting on the couch for 2 hours or 3 hours, you know what I mean, like and just spending a lot more time just relaxing rather than looking for things to do.
So what does training look like so is it is Mona taken over for these next 10 weeks as the marathon specialist, or does Gav still put his 2 bobs worth in? Or because Mona's approach and some of the stuff I've seen from you on Strava are quite different. And I know Moose has had some big conversations with Mona his time in Ballarat. Like there's more than one way to skin a cat, and are you going to go like traditional kind of marathon Moneghetti build up?
I mean, so it's sort of been more, I guess, like if you looked at it with like KPIs, and so like what are like the important things that I need to be doing, and so like the big ones have been like firstly like the structure and like the periodization and getting the block sort of set down. The second thing sort of been like the repetition and just getting your body used to doing, I mean, like to me it seems traditional, like 3 workouts a week. I mean, the third workout, like I know a lot of guys do 2 workouts, and I mean maybe if he wrote it 100%, maybe he would mix things up, but having a day that's sort of track and interval based, having a day that's sort of hill based, and then a threshold day, which is something I personally like doing, because I know if you ask Mona, like, threshold wasn't really a big thing they did back in the 90s, and it's been good as well. Like, I guess Gavin and I have been running sort of workouts on the track which work a lot of that speed sort of side of things, because I mean that was one thing I had been neglecting. And so I mean, like, for example, last week my track workout was like, we did about 2 mile tempo, 3 by 1k, and then 600 400 600 400 600 400, and it's sort of stuff like that where you're working sort of that set energy system sort of above race pace. But I guess coming back to that 5k and stuff we were talking about before, it's sort of getting into that style of work just to get the body being sort of efficient as it can, running in that sort of upper aerobic, anaerobic zone.
Yeah, and has Mona put more emphasis on the hills as well over the long runs and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, sort of hills being its own workout was sort of one thing, because he's sort of on the mindset, like, if you're going to do hills, like, do hills, you know what I mean? Like, don't do sort of something too complicated. But yeah, like, he's sort of his overview's been very simplistic, which has been the thing I've been able to benefit from most, I think.
Yeah, it must be awesome just to bounce ideas off him and things like that.
Sure.
Pretty good person to have in your corner.
Yeah, he's a nice guy as well. We chat a lot of music as well, which is nice.
Oh, we had him on the show just after he'd been to the Killers, I reckon it was, and he was up and about after that night, I reckon. Hey, I want to get to a couple of the issues that you've had in the past, and I speak about my iron a bit on this show. I've heard you mention the red S stuff before, and testosterone as well. So, like, I've had similar kind of battles with the lack of energy and the testosterone with the blood test and things like that. But and it's quite confronting, because you're still trying as hard as you possibly can in races and workouts, and you're just like, what's going on? Like, I'm pushing myself, but nothing's kind of coming out. And it's not until you actually get the blood test done that you like figure out, I'm actually not that actual healthy here for what I'm trying to do. Yeah,
I mean, 100%. And I mean, so I had a blood test. My most recent one was the first time in like 5 years where everything's been pretty perfect, which was like, I don't know, probably the most significant thing in my running this year, you know, because you try to be as healthy as you can, especially at the start of each block. But it's hard because often people sort of, I don't know, look to the wrong things. Maybe you look at sort of weight, or you look at hard work over recovery, or you look at you don't put enough emphasis on like nutrition or sleep and sort of those important things, because I guess the human nature when you need to work hard is just to work hard and not really think about the other things. It's sort of to get into that sort of like, I guess, Ned Brockman state where you just want to push on and get and just pile things on top of each other. But I mean, you don't recover outside of I mean, you don't recover while you're running, and you don't benefit from the run while you're doing it. And so I think it's that sort of supplementary stuff that makes the biggest difference.
That bro culture, like keep pushing harder, and it doesn't work in running because you just end up broken.
Yeah, I mean it's funny because so like I take a few supplements, but not too many. Like I take a good magnesium and zinc, sort of a men's multi, which has been good. I take my iron, I take L-glutamine, and they're sort of the main, and BCAAs. They're the sort of main ones from True Protein. But it's funny as well. Like there's a lot of fads out there, like with magnesium and other stuff. So I mean, I think it's important to do sort of research and get the right thing, but I mean, nothing beats hours of sleep, I think.
Yeah, what do you put down to getting your testosterone back to a healthy level? Just because that's obviously something you can't supplement.
Yeah. I'd say sleep's number one. Like, I went to a really good sports doctor at the start of the year called David Samra. And because I went to him and my testosterone was low, and I was sort of expecting him to be like overly concerned or like, oh dude, you need to like make sure you're like supplementing like magnesium and zinc because they help. But he was really like, how much sleep are you getting? And I was like, well, sort of 8 hours. And he was like, you should be getting like as close to 10 hours a night as you can. And so I have been doing that. I mean, sometimes even if I stay up a little bit late, like I've been making sure I sort of still try to get that time of sleep. And so I went back and got another blood test after a few months, and it was like doubled what it was, which was good. And like I feel a lot more energetic. And I think that has been the number one factor, has just been sleep and just time off the legs between running.
Yeah, that's great that you could identify it and then improve it. And then I guess like, because this is really your job too, you don't work part-time at all, like your full kind of time with ASICS and Oakley?
Full time with ASIC, yeah. And I mean, I do shoe development with them, and so sort of design shoes, and we sort of have regular meetings with the Japan team, which is cool because like I love all that. But yeah, just I guess full-time job, just trying to get the most out of my body.
Yeah. What can you tell us anything like what's coming? We reviewed the Super Blast last week. I said it's only April, but I reckon that's the best jogging shoe I'm going to run in this year. That's the real deal. I actually purchased a pair. We got a pair to review, and then I thought, I really need to get another one of these pairs because that's a good shoe. But can you tell us what else is potentially coming or what to look out for? I
mean, yes. We'll say yes.
Until we have to cut it after we've recorded,
Yeah. No, so for example, like I'm testing 7 different prototype shoes at the moment with them, and so there's a lot of different things they've been trying out, which is good. And it's funny as well because I know Tom Buchanan's in the same sort of boat. We both got big feet, so I mean, weight in a shoe is definitely sort of one of the more noticeable factors as shoes get sort of thicker and more stuff gets put into them. But it's cool. Like there's one shoe which I think is, I mean, it's my favorite shoe I've worn. Like even if I could wear the next percent, I mean, like when I started with ASICS, like 100%, like their shoe was still behind. Like you've seen like the data and stuff on like those different Instagram stuff. Like it's sort of evident that Nike had the jump on these shoes. But I mean, really, like the new Edge and Sky, the stuff that's going to be coming out for the Olympics next year, I think it's going to be pretty special. And you can really tell, like if you pick up a shoe and you feel the foam, like you can almost like instantly tell how good it's going to be to a certain degree, if you know what I mean.
Oh, the amount of times you can just walk up the hallway in your house after you've got a box delivered to the front door, and you just kind of, I reckon runners, we just know instantly, you're like, okay, this is the real deal. This is just going to be a workhorse. This is not going to get worn. Like, you can make that call in 20 metres up the hallway. You
can, and I think when the foams sort of came out and they were using a lot of Piba and other brands were using like sort of more expanded EVA, also like nitrogen infused stuff, and sort of all the foams looked a bit different. But I guess like that Nike foam had that sort of yellowish tint on the if you know what I mean, that sort of off white sort of foam. I mean that's sort of the stuff that's sort of in the new ASICS shoes, which is good. And they put a lot of emphasis into their like plate technology as well, which is good. And the other thing is like the upper. I really really like because I never wear socks for my hard days. And so, like, if it's shoes not comfortable, like you blister within a run, but like these shoes, they're pretty good. And so I think they will become a lot more popular. And so yeah, I've loved being with ASIC, which is cool. I mean, yeah, the Super Blast, the Nova Blast, like I don't know why you would jog in a Nike Peg or something like that when like other shoe companies are putting a lot more emphasis into their just sort of everyday joggers and trainers.
Emma Bates today, ASIC's girl, 5th.
Yeah.
That was a good run from her.
Yeah.
So yeah, they talked about that kind of currency coming through. Ed, I like asking people what they'd want to change about the sport.
Yeah.
I can imagine you'd have some creative things here. So we'll go in 2 parts. Like you're Sebco for the day, you're in charge of World Athletics for the day.
Yeah.
And then you're in charge of Athletics Australia, a week later. So what would you change on the global level first if you were in charge of World Athletics? I know, because I know you like heaps of sports too. Like you're a big consumer of sports. So it's like I feel like you can look at all these different sports and say, hey, this is what running needs.
So I think if I was looking at it from a lot of different sports, like so I'm a big baseball fan, and the thing where baseball is most successful is, and it's sort of baseball and cycling are the same things with cricket because they're on for sort of a long period of time. Like you can look at the marathon in the same sort of sense, and you sort of got to boost advertising revenue, whether it's from sponsors and betting companies or TV ads and signage. So I mean, I think the first thing I'd change is probably allowing more sponsors on kits, because at the moment there's not really that much. There's not that much you can offer a brand in terms of like visibility when you're actually racing. So say True Protein are sponsoring me, like I can't have True Protein plastered across my singlet, and like it probably wouldn't look great as well. But I think if you come at it from a sort of cycling point of view, I'd also try to make it more team based and make it more of a series where you can sort of introduce a lot more sort of like sponsorship and stuff. And it's funny because you watch Boston and like the top. I mean, a big race like Boston, you might sort of know eight guys racing, but like you watch the Tour of Flanders or like a big cycling race and you could name probably like 50 or 60 guys because they're doing every race, whereas like the world majors you can maybe do like 1 or 2 a year. So I think a more streamlined racing series would be good, where you could see sort of more familiar names over and over. And I actually spoke to Jos Hermans from NN Running over in London.
Kipchoge's manager, Bekele's manager.
Yeah, and he was saying he wants to make, and he runs NN, and he was saying he wants to make running more team-based like cycling, because that's where he believes there's the most room to grow in that sort of sense. But I mean, even things like allowing like sports betting and stuff, like you've got to look at sort of revenue streams that filter down for the athletes.
So would you potentially streamline things a bit? Because I feel like our sport gets pulled in the athletics, the road racing, you can go ultra trail, you can go recreational, charity, like it goes in all these different directions. So if you're Sebco, you're getting everyone in the same room and said, hey, from now on, this is what we're doing. This is the track series. This is the road racing series. Here's your budget. Create some teams. These are the points. Who's the winner at the end of the year? There's ladders throughout the year, stuff like that potentially.
For sure. Because, I mean, at the moment, like, you sit down and you're like, okay, like, which of, like, 200 marathons do I want to race? And maybe it's 2 a year, you know what I mean? Like, it just dilutes the talent pool a lot. And, I mean, the talent pool is huge because, like, running's, like, one of those sports where like there's a lot of fast guys, but if you look at the talent pool in terms of like household or known names, like it is small. Actual
characters though is very very small, isn't it? Like I'm a fan of running, and I probably I'm watching Boston today, and there's not a lot of people in those lead packs that actually know their stories, and that's what you really. I was watching today to see if Kipchoge was going to get beaten, because that was going to be the story. And it's not so, like, he's getting dropped by 5 guys. I only know 2 of them. And I'm a guy who does a podcast for 5 years talking about running.
Yeah. It's crazy. But I think as well, like I mean, like when you create teams, like you give the athletes a voice as well, especially like sort of East African guys. Like, I mean, there's no way social media for them is as key to their day-to-day lives as it is in Australia or America. But I think when teams get set up and you have like people sort of help them out with that stuff, like you do give them a big voice. And like, you mean the whole Kipchoge thing, like, I mean, there's no way he runs his own Instagram account.
I said this today. I read his post out to my wife, and I just said he doesn't know the login details to that account.
Yeah.
He doesn't see that.
Yeah.
He's sitting in his hotel room sleeping. Someone else is doing all that for him. Yeah,
exactly. And so like, yeah, but if he didn't have Instagram, like he would be like nowhere near as. I mean, obviously, like he's sub 2 guys,
7,500 comments.
Yeah,
like it's very engaging. They're doing a fantastic job of it. Yeah,
sure. But I think, yeah, you got to look at teams like NN and the On group in America, and the Chojo group in Kenya, and sort of how they help tell the athletes' stories. I think is important. So I think that's one thing. Like make it more team based and make it more of a series where you can really follow it, and like you said, with leaderboards and stuff like that. But as well, at the same time, like you do have to increase revenue streams, and there has to be sort of sponsorship, betting, and other ways which can filter down for the athletes
and fund that. Like So like at the moment, it's not like it's Ed Goddard's responsibility to promote Ed Goddard at the moment, and ASICS might do it occasionally, but you don't have a team working on that.
For sure. And you look at like, I mean, like a major marathon, like, I don't know, New York, like they'd be getting millions and millions of dollars from the government and the state government to run these events. But by the time it sort of goes to sort of like setting up the whole city for a day and goes to the event organizers and goes through all these different streams, it doesn't really filter down for the athletes. And so I think you need to bring revenue in from different angles that doesn't necessarily go to the people sort of organizing it, but actually goes to the athletes.
Yeah, good one. There's a bit there. We could keep talking about that for another half an hour, I think. But tell me about Athletics Australia, local level, because I'll look at you in New South Wales, and you seem like a bit of a, I guess, lone soldier up there. Like you're doing a lot of stuff solo. I think about the 62 to 65 minute guys in Victoria, and then I think about the 62 to 65 minute guys in New South Wales, and like it must be hard for you to train, I suppose, and have company in workouts and things like that. And then so how do we grow the sport in Australia? What would you do? I don't even know who the president of Athletics Australia is at the moment, but you're in charge.
Yeah, I'd say I mean the big thing is I guess Athletics Australia have a lot of their work made it easy for them because the whole collegiate system in America, it's their whole under 23 development system doesn't really have to exist because all the distance guys go to America and come back running 13:20 or 13:30. You know what I mean? Like that whole pathway. Like, and obviously there's no way they can invest as much money as like the Big Ten or the Pac-12 can, but I think what would be good would be to help harness a system that sort of helps athletes when they come back from America, or if they don't want to go to America, sort of help set up sort of talent pathways in different states. Because like I know there was the under-23 trip to England last year, but they were racing pretty odd meets. Like they were winning all the races. Like there wasn't that much competition for the guys. I think sort of putting a lot more emphasis on that would be good. But I mean, at the same time, like if you look at it like other professional sports, like you do have to sort of market the athletes better. And I mean, even if you get back to the team stuff and the betting stuff, I mean, maybe if there was more input from Athletics Australia in helping to set up teams or different series. Like, I mean, they did such a good job with the Grand Prix meets this year. But like, wouldn't it be cool if those meets linked in on a leaderboard with other meets, and maybe you had like, I don't know, the on team from America brought a team over, you had a team from sort of NN bring a team over, and you have a few guys in each race, and there's sort of a leaderboard at the end of the night, stuff like that. I think would be good. But I mean, I think a lot of those stuff is going that way, but I think it could be pushed maybe a little bit.
Yeah, I think the ship's heading in the right direction. Like, even just commenting on the sport 2 or 3 years ago, like, it feels like, and even, you know, an Ollie Hoare is a good example that gets into that US system, that thrives in that system, stays in that system, and then, you know, could have done what he done at the Commonwealth Games, and a lot of people know who he is, and then fallen off the radar. But kind of the World Cross would have kept his name kind of up there a bit more. The Murray Plant win, like, it's kind of as much publicity in 2 or 3 months as you could probably get for a runner. Jess Hull, kind of similar. Like, I feel like they're starting to push through. I can ask the ladies at work about them, and they know them, kind of thing.
But I mean, I guess even with those meets, like, it was so hard to even find them on like streams. You have to go like on the 7+ app and try to log in through the TV, and you know what I mean, like send an email to yourself and like fill out,
verify your account.
It was just, you could just put it on TV. Like, I'm sure like a rerun of like Auction Hunters could get postponed.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like Big Fishing Adventures or whatever it is on it. Yeah,
I do love River Monsters.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, all right, we solved some problems there. That was good. That was good.
So.
Hey, I often like to ask people, you might not have an answer to this because it might be television, but what's on the bedside table? You got a book on the go at the moment?
I mean, I'd like to say yes, but no. I'm more. I mean, honestly, like, I sort of watch TV. Like, I do like. I'm a big pictures guy, but like, if I'm flicking through a magazine, like, I'd happily flick through like an old Greg Chappell cricket magazine and reminisce about like different sports equipment from 2007 and stuff like that. That's my kind of non-eventful read at the moment.
I love it. That's okay. We'll accept that. And then races upcoming. I spoke about Gold Coast, but I think you're in action at the Sydney 10K as well. You kind of touched on. That'd be a couple of weeks away.
Sydney 10, which is 2 weeks. And then Gold Coast. I mean, I'd love to run a half between those two. I mean, Launceston's getting a little bit close to Goldie. It's, I think, 3 weeks before, which, I mean, is doable, but I mean, they're the sort of two big races. But yeah, I guess this whole year's been sort of get the body back on track, try sort of more chilled headspace approach, and just sort of put my head down with training and get a good amount of work done, and hopefully that sort of pays off rather than sort of looking for races or looking for things to present themselves.
Yeah, I feel like the breakthroughs, it's coming. And I did have a chat with, I won't say his name, but there was a bloke who knows a lot about running who picked you to be the man to break the Australian record. He's like, no, Ed Goddard's the guy. He does the high mileage. He's done it for years. Once he breaks through, he's breaking through. So, like, you're putting in the work is what I'm trying to say.
I mean, I think one of the good things about going to the marathon early is that I think a lot of those teething issues I've worked my way through, and I mean, I do think that the method of which I'm sort of training with now and sort of my day-to-day athlete life is very sustainable, which is good, because I think that's the thing that's going to help me run as well as I can for as long as I can. You can't do everything was the big learning curve last year, and just I think it's exciting being like a pro runner, and I really liked that excitement last year, but I think just putting my head down and actually focusing on the process more than the outcome is where I'll benefit from most.
Yeah, well, there's not many of them. So, like, it's good to hear you're grateful for and excited by that opportunity, because I'm trying to think, there'd be 10 in Australia, people running for their job.
Yeah, I mean, it is cool, but I mean, I am also hoping to set up a bit of a team in Sydney, getting back to the whole Sydney thing. Maybe we'll be a bit of a Lord of the Rings type, bringing people from far afield to join a greater cause. But yeah.
Well, here we go. Watch this space.
Sort of thing. Yeah, it's got a few names on paper and talking to a few different brands as well, because I don't think any one sponsor can put like isn't enough money or resources into a thing. I think it needs to be a sort of bit of collaborative effort to get it off the ground. But yeah, I think it's going to be cool, and hopefully for some guys coming back from college in America, when they finish, there'll be a bit of a system in place that sort of helps them out.
So you're talking like similar to what On's done in Melbourne now, but the Sydney branch of not misfits, but combination of different brands come together. Yeah, the fellowship.
Yeah, I'd say so, and I guess with ASICS as a strong like global brand as well, like they do look after the athletes really well. But so a lot of the sponsors I've gone to have all been sort of brands like, well, which sponsors can really help make an athlete's life easier, and what do you need? So it's not just like running shoes, but like looking at physio and recovery and nutrition and stuff as well. So sort of trying to sort of encapsulate that package, which is sort of given to athletes when they're over in America, and put it more into day-to-day life in Sydney, Australia.
Because the cash is the big one, isn't it? Like, you can be getting 3 or 4 kit drops a year, but if you can't pay your rent or pay for physio or pay for massages or food or whatever it is, you're never going to make it. So it's trying to get those income streams in there that can, someone's taking care of your rent for 12 months, then you can work a few hours to pay for your food, and then you can run. For
sure. Because, I mean, it's crazy. Like, I train up at Narrabeen, like the Academy of Sport up there. There's a track. And, like, those triathlon guys, like, within NSW, like they can live at the centre for a very cheap rent. They've got physio paid for. They've got like a track, a pool, like basically semi-private roads for cycling on around there. Like it's very well looked after. Whereas like sort of an athlete in Sydney, like NSW doesn't really provide those same amenities for the athlete. And so I guess looking into privatized a little bit, but like I got backing from sort of Athletics New South Wales and stuff as well. And so hopefully, hopefully it all comes into play pretty well. But yeah, I think it's a watch this space thing.
Yeah, cool. That's exciting. And
but, I guess the other thing is like sort of looking at the group to sort of help the community as well. Like I think we'll have we're gonna like have a run group and stuff, because I think the better we can engage the community, different run groups and stuff as well, like I think the better off the running community in Sydney will be.
Yeah, spot on. Couldn't agree more. That community stuff's so important. Ed, we've been talking for 70 minutes, and it's been good to pick your brain on different things, because I think usually the lead questions with you are tell us about the mullet, tell us about the phone, tell us about the Strava titles, and it's been good to actually go a bit deeper. And as I said in the intro, like I find that you're a fascinating person, and you kind of just explain the entrepreneurial kind of side of trying to get the most out of your running and ways you can grow it. So a massive thanks for the time. And anything else people can follow you on, any handles or anything like that?
I mean, just Instagram and Strava. I mean, if you like rock and roll music, then you'll like my Strava, and if you don't, you might hate it. Sorry.
Beautiful, Ed.
Yeah.
Thanks for your time for the Inside Running podcast.
Enjoyed it.
Time flies, mate.
Yeah, sweet as.
Special thanks to ASICS for sponsoring this week's episode of the Inside Running podcast. The Super Blast shoe adds another super running companion to your ASICS lineup. Generous, lightweight cushioning underfoot minimises the impact of repeat training on the body, making it ideal for longer runs, faster attempts and recovery training. Visit asics.com.au to get your pair today.